Before returning to the college entrance exam, I became popular in the scientific community. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction, so please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story in all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter, and if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 226 Petition. You each have your own strengths, and serving the country is my greatest hope. Cheng Huinan smiled and reassured Wu Tong, telling her not to feel guilty. When your junior apprentice graduated, I was planning to recommend him to go out and gain experience. His original plan was to have his eldest disciple Zhang Xiaoming mentor Cheng Su after Cheng Su graduated. After training with Xiaoming, Cheng Su would be ready to strike out on his own. His future depended on his own ambition. A master guides, but the practice is up to the individual. With Cheng Su's talent and the resources of their lineage, as long as he's motivated and doesn't waste his talent, he could easily become a typical outstanding young scholar. Whether he could reach the same level as him and Xiaoming depended on whether he could break through himself or whether he had the opportunity. Now, with his young apprentice Wu Tong, this was an even better opportunity. Wu Tong was willing to let Cheng Su join the team, aboard Wu Tong's ship, where he could be exposed to more transcendental research theories and further expand his potential. This is a mutually beneficial situation. How wonderful. Why not do it? It's the best for Cheng Su. There's no need to feel guilty about him. His greatest wish is for each student who enters his fold to have a better future. Although I currently manage and use this research institute, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the School of Materials Science and Engineering at Kyoto University. I'm getting a bit older, and for the past 2 years, I've been planning to delegate this responsibility to Wu Tong. If you don't mind my age and rigid thinking, and you hand this lab over to someone else, I'd like to ask to help you out. Old Cheng jokingly smiled, but also spoke seriously. His young apprentice has a promising future, but his old age, not only a rigid mindset but also less energy than before, will only see his future decline. He's been away much less this year than in previous years. Besides assisting Wu Tong on the 2 projects, he also has to accept his age. The future still belongs to the young. Rather than just sitting there on the laurels of his previous achievements, idling away his time, he'd rather find a more suitable niche and pursue something more meaningful. Even if he retired, he wouldn't be idle, so he'd still like to make the most of his remaining energy. His young apprentice had a promising future, having already reached the pinnacle of academic achievement and poised for even greater advancement. A lack of experience in personnel matters wasn't a major issue, it would accumulate over time. He'd taught the child the least, and he was willing to serve as a stepping stone to help his apprentice navigate a smoother path, a more valuable asset. He'd been pondering this idea for a long time, and after the higher-ups finalized the rewards for the apprentice and established a dedicated research institute for Wu Tong, he finally settled on it. You joining me? I'd certainly welcome you. However, my side hasn't even really taken off yet, and it's too rudimentary. It would be a real burden for you. Wu Tong was incredibly surprised that the teacher was willing to join. However, a leader like the teacher possessed her own resources and team. Asking her to lead her fledgling team would be tantamount to exploiting her to fill her own shoes, something she couldn't handle. I've already delivered everything I need to deliver. Cheng Su's graduation thesis is almost finalized, and all that's left is the final defense. Once your institute is established, I'll talk to my superiors. The researchers who signed the confidentiality agreement and you've been a good partner will be seconded to your institute. Seconded is still a secondment. Once they're at the Wu Tong Institute, they'll belong to Wu Tong over time. He'd said before that his legacy would be inherited by his younger disciples. Wu Tong was his last disciple. As a teacher, he had done the least to teach Wu Tong, and there wasn't much he could do for her. The chance to do more was a rare opportunity. I've heard about their intentions, and they're eager to join your team. Who wouldn't want to work under someone like Wu Tong, a leader who consistently produces and achieves astonishing results, even before they've achieved independent research? Teacher, thank you. Wu Tong stood up and bowed deeply. The teacher had thought so much of her, and this thank you was just the smallest token of gratitude. But at this moment, she didn't know how else to express her gratitude. There's no need for this between us, master and apprentice. As a teacher, it's only natural for me to consider you. Besides, with your current achievements and your future, I'm definitely benefiting from you, Cheng Huan sighed heartfeltly. At his age, it would be difficult for him to achieve new results, but by assisting Wu Tong, he would witness more miracles and surely find the rest of his life fulfilling and enriching. Yes, teacher, I'll make you proud and fulfill your dreams. Wu Tong assured her firmly. As the saying goes, an elder in the family is like a treasure. With her teacher at the helm, her research institute would be incredibly stable. Wu Tong handed the second half of the plan she'd mentioned to her teacher. The teacher had sufficient authority, and there was nothing to hide between them, so she could ask him to help review it. Teacher, look, this is my recent research. She held patents for ultrafiltration purification, N18, and so on. If she wanted, she could easily set up a company and run it independently. Even with her limited business acumen, she could sense the enormous potential of this market, trillions, no exaggeration. However, compared to her proficiency in research, she was inversely sensitive to commercial operations. She had heard of the cruelty of the business world. She might be trapped, and ultimately, completely wiped out. Therefore, rather than operating independently, Wu Tong preferred to continue with pure research, positioning herself as a pure researcher. Once she had her results, she would hand them over to the state for maximum operation, benefiting both the nation and the people. The state would undoubtedly treat her well. She already enjoyed exceptionally favorable treatment from the state, and she wanted to live up to it. If possible, she wanted to secure some research funding. For a large research institute, her meager bonus was a drop in the bucket. It was simply not enough. Wu Tong carefully shared her ideas and considerations with her teacher, asking the experienced professor to help her determine whether her ideas had potential. Relying on government funding all the time is always a bit passive. Sometimes, her research is rather casual, and no one can predict when inspiration will come. It is even more unrealistic to put all the projects that she has some vague ideas about into project approval and put them aside to get funding. Chapter 227 Positioning. National funding is limited, and every penny is meticulously collected and prepared to support the scientific research community. With her current limited achievements, she could apply for concurrent projects, but this would undoubtedly put pressure on her superiors and be irresponsible and reckless. Therefore, Wu Tong wanted to have sufficient funding on hand, allowing her to carry out projects at any time and provide her institute's researchers with reasonably good compensation within her means. This was also a naive idea to strengthen team cohesion. The saying, "Those who make missiles are worse than those who sell tea eggs," once captured the heartache of many researchers. The rise of a great power is a difficult journey, and often, some things inevitably fail to gain widespread adoption. However, this doesn't mean the future is set in stone. She hopes that all researchers will receive better compensation in the future. Are you sure you're going to submit it? Cheng Huan carefully examined Wu Tong's research report and its parameters. Like Ruan Chengsu, despite his expectations of Wu Tong, he remained stunned. Such astonishing achievements, yet they're not specifically military or industrial, hold immeasurable economic value, starting in the trillions. Furthermore, if put to practical use, the resource recycling mechanism behind this economic value could transform waste into treasure, making the impossible possible. It could even change the country's dependence on imports for some resources. I'm sure, teacher, Wu Tong nodded confidently. Rather than business operations, which I'm not good at, teacher, I'd rather consider myself a pure scientific researcher, one with free reign over research funding. As she'd said before, money was enough. She currently had a house and a car, a high annual salary, and the benefits provided for her and her family, a high-quality life. When people are no longer burdened by the shackles of life and the struggle for survival, they inevitably seek ideals. Her ideal was simple, joyful study and research. Cheng Huan was instantly moved, and even more certain of her decision, the right one. With Wu Tong's intelligence and vision, she couldn't fail to see the strategic significance and economic value of this. Yet, she still chose to submit the funds to the nation, ensuring their continued benefit. How could such dedication not be admired? This older generation admired nothing more than this child. Okay, Wu Tong, you will definitely achieve your wish, Cheng Huan assured Wu Tong without waiting for feedback from above. It was truly unbelievable that such a contribution couldn't fulfill Wu Tong's modest ambition. When it comes to business talent, there are truly a plethora both domestically and internationally. If you're looking for someone absolutely reliable, I'd like to recommend someone to you, After a long pause, the shock subsided slightly. Cheng Huinan pondered for a moment, then offered Wu Tong some practical advice. You know him, too. It's Lu Xiao. He's been quiet these days, focusing on scientific research. Back then, when he wanted to conduct a project but lacked funding, he stirred up a storm internationally, raking in billions in funding to fund his research. Thinking of this, a statistic known only to a select few, Cheng Huinan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. It truly is a young nation these days. With the soul-stirring Lu Xiao before, and the earth-shaking Wu Tong now aboard, how can China not prosper? Teacher Lu, Wu Tong was a little surprised. Did the seemingly modest and polite Teacher Lu have such a history? Yes, that's him. Lu has only become more composed in recent years. Back then, he was a notorious troublemaker. Speaking of Lu Xiao's achievements, old Cheng couldn't help but click his tongue. He knew Lu Xiao's elders and had watched him grow up, witnessing every aspect of his life. However, Lu Xiao was now a prominent figure, even higher in rank than him, so he had to give him some respect. Cheng Huinan wasn't one to talk behind people's backs, so he simply sighed and didn't elaborate. When you have the chance, you'll slowly learn about it. Lu Xiao is the best person to support you in achieving your vision. He's knowledgeable, open-minded, and his abilities are proven. Most importantly, from a confidentiality perspective, he's absolutely reliable, and he's a relatively familiar acquaintance. Cheng Huinan recommended him bluntly. This wasn't the first time Wu Tong and Lu Xiao had worked together. Their first collaboration doubled the performance of the Wei Long, reaching world-class standards. Their second collaboration resulted in the miniaturization of the PL-15, a super air-to-air missile, surpassing international standards. Cheng Huinan was eager to see what miracles this stunning and talented team would create. Okay, I'll contact Professor Lu and ask for his help, Wu Tong nodded. The candidate recommended by the professor was someone she knew well, which was ideal. She'd worked with Professor Lu several times before, and his efficiency was always impressive. Working with him was a pleasure. Or rather, since she began her research career, the professors and project leaders she'd met had been impeccable. The national selection process confirmed their exceptional quality and capabilities. Today, I suddenly heard a call from Professor Wu, a sign of a distinguished guest. The H-20's technical transition and development progress were proceeding smoothly, and Lu Xiao wasn't feeling too nervous. Seeing the call from Wu Tong on his confidential number, he couldn't help but smile and playfully relax. Wu Tong smiled faintly. Teacher Lu is quite humorous. It seems everything is going smoothly. Sorry to bother you, Professor Lu, but I'm here to bother you, Wu Tong. Tell me if there's anything I can do for you. Just ask, Lu Xiao responded immediately, without hesitation. I need your help. Since she was here seeking assistance, Wu Tong didn't beat around the bush and directly told him her request. I'll send you an overview of our new research and development results. Professor Lu, please help me improve it. Lu Xiao simultaneously opened the document Wu Tong had sent, his gaze fixed on the contents on the screen for a long time. Ultrafiltration purification membrane, a superior water molecule filtration membrane, honeycomb oxygenation, pollution treatment, heavy metal reduction and extraction. A series of astounding achievements unfolded before Lu Xiao, and even his vast knowledge was astounded by the cutting-edge technology contained within. This was truly Professor Wu Tong's work. It was truly extraordinary. If utilized effectively, this document could revitalize so many sectors. Wu Tong, the content is too substantial. I need some time to digest and organize it. Give me 3 days, and I'll provide you with a detailed plan. Beneath the silver-rimmed, blue light-shielded glasses, Lu Xiao's gaze was focused, his voice lowered, yet he remained as calm as ever. A huge amount of information and knowledge turned over in his mind, colliding with this important content, and various ideas and thoughts emerged. Lu Xiao's mind was active and running at high speed. This was the first time he was excited about business operations after he stopped and was silent in recent years, and his heart was surging with excitement. Chapter 228 Depth. 3 days, and there was no need for Wu Tong to wait. On the third day, she received a message from Lu Xiao. The plan was complete. Opening the encrypted document Lu Xiao had sent her, Wu Tong was immediately filled with admiration. As expected of Mr. Lu, a mastermind so highly recommended by his teacher. This project was a far superior and more sophisticated vision than the vague idea she had previously entertained. Lu Xiao's comprehensive vision was overwhelming, a commanding presence. He covered the current state of domestic pollution and future pollution projections, the energy efficiency Wutong's purification plan could achieve, its implementation and nationwide radiation coverage, the excess initial investment capital, the expected returns, the market, and the estimated resource recycling capacity. The detailed data, one after another, was crystal clear, yet the sheer scale of the market and potential opportunities presented was astonishing. I've broadly implemented the plan based on 3 key areas: deep treatment of waste-contaminated water sources for resource reuse, diffracting seawater into fresh water for northward diversion to address water shortages in western China, and meticulous extraction of lean minerals. Lu Xiao explained his planning perspectives and concepts to Wu Tong one by one. This is a remarkable achievement, achieving multiple goals at once. It not only addresses the massive pollution legacy of rapid economic development, but also significantly increases the country's available resources. The abundant water resources generated by converting seawater into fresh water will not only truly enhance the south to north water diversion project, but also generate resources during the conversion process. Seawater contains a variety of elements, including, most importantly, tritium, which can be used for controlled nuclear fusion. The vast ocean is a vast treasure trove. It is home to not only a vast array of rare and valuable marine life, but also rich deposits of metal and non-metallic minerals. Scientific research indicates that seawater contains nearly 80 metallic and non-metallic elements, including 2.1 trillion tons of magnesium, 6 trillion tons of potassium, 1 trillion tons of bromine, over 90 trillion tons of iodine, 5.5 million tons of gold, and 400 million tons of silver. Many rare metals, such as uranium, strontium, rubidium, and lithium, which are found in limited and scattered quantities on land, are also abundant in seawater. For example, 4.5 billion tons of uranium, a nuclear fuel, are dissolved in seawater, 2,000 times more than the proven uranium reserves on land. This project would not only address China's current groundwater depletion and water scarcity problems, but also generate resources at a cost far less than mining. It would be pollution-free and could even address pollution problems. Furthermore, it would significantly reduce China's mineral scarcity and dependence on international imports, leading to self-sufficiency and even export for foreign exchange earnings. Such a miraculous product, coupled with a detailed implementation plan, is undeniable. Indeed, upon receiving Wu Tong's final, detailed and encrypted plan, Chu Hengyan, the person in charge, was immediately stunned. He immediately arranged for protection and reported the information to the top management. Such a crucial, top-secret strategic output made him nervous. He hadn't expected that Wu Tong had just completed the proof of the Goldbach conjecture, or even the previous project, the PL-15, less than 2 months later, and yet he had already achieved such remarkable results. With such potential and ability, it was clear that they couldn't overestimate Wu Tong's importance. The N18 research and development data had been transferred to their secret research institute for a long time, and they had only just begun to verify it piece by piece. Before they had even developed a new direction, Wu Tong had already provided an even more remarkable combination and a comprehensive plan. Our Professor Wu, your determination to strengthen our country is truly impressive. Professor Wu has already put the scientific research to the test, and we must not fall behind, the elder exclaimed after carefully reviewing the plan. They had just rejoiced over the proof of the Goldbach conjecture, and before they had even recovered from the detailed verification data they had provided Wu Tong for the development of Mach 4, a special seismic-resistant steel, Wu Tong had made new progress. With such a talent like this, the country can thrive. Professor Wu's security and well-being must be fully monitored. This national treasure must not be compromised, the elder urged again, his voice heavy with urgency. Convene all the experts and hold a seminar. If they fail to grasp this plan, which benefits the nation and its people and strengthens its foundations, they would be traitors to China. With Professor Wu's rapid research and development, we must not let him down, add more personnel to the Peking University laboratory and quickly establish the highest level of security, as standard for a key military site. We cannot let Professor Wu's efforts go to waste by limiting the potential of such a researcher, who still lacks a dedicated research facility. Yes, elder, I'll arrange it. Chu Hengyan immediately agreed. Soon, a confidential meeting was convened. The vast conference room was packed with high-ranking officials. At first glance, it seemed like there were no mediocre people involved, and the meeting affected so many sectors, including materials, state-owned enterprises, engineering, water conservancy, and resources. Many of the leaders, suddenly called to the meeting, were baffled. What kind of event could so alarm so many leaders from such diverse industries? The leaders were human, curious too, and couldn't help but speculate and whisper questions. Old Wang, any inside information to share? What's the purpose of today's meeting, Old Jin? You're so well informed, what are you going to say? Did the higher-ups suddenly request a meeting without informing you of the reason? The several leaders in the materials industry felt a strange sense of familiarity, and in unison, they turned their gazes to the calm and composed Cheng Huanan. Sitting next to him was his founding disciple, Zhang Xiaoming. Old Cheng, haha. Choose here. Hey, the elders are here. Could Cheng Huanan say anything? He absolutely couldn't. He was just trying to find an excuse to push his way out when he looked up and saw the conference room entrance and the prominent figure entering. He stood up involuntarily, a sign of respect. The others, regardless of their complaints about Cheng Huanan's cunning ways, all the attendees rose to greet the elder. The elder smiled warmly and pressed his hand. Everyone, please take a seat. Hingin will again be the chairperson for today's meeting. I'll be a bystander. Everyone, please feel free to speak later. Your professional judgment is still needed today. Chu Hingin obeyed without even trying to give up his seat. He took a seat in the center of the conference room and immediately arranged for confidentiality. All attendees' phones were turned off, and no recordings or video recordings were permitted. The meeting began immediately, getting straight to the point. I've hastily invited everyone here today to discuss a major research project. Everyone, please look at the big screen. As the leaders gathered, Chu Hengin quickly put together a brief PowerPoint presentation. Regarding the deep resource exploitation and northward desalination project, the title appeared in large letters on the projection screen, instantly reaffirming the importance of this meeting to the solemn and composed attendees. Chapter 229. Are you sure? Those with keen eyes could already tell it was a set of major achievements, not just one. The difference between one achievement and a set is enormous. Of course, the majority of attendees were now filled with endless doubts and questions. Desalination is expensive and costly, costing over 10 yuan per cubic meter, far more than the average of 2 or 3 yuan per cubic meter for the South to North Water Diversion Project. With the South to North Water Diversion Project, even with the current depletion of freshwater resources in inland areas, it can still be sustained. With existing freshwater resources, would desalinating seawater and then transferring it northward simply be an unnecessary cost increase? China has only a limited number of mineral resources, and nearly everyone present has a detailed understanding of domestic resources. While the total amount of mineral resources is relatively abundant and diverse, per capita possession falls short of the global average. Mineral resources are of poor quality, geographically unevenly distributed, with few large and super-large mines and open-pit mining operations. Development and utilization rates are low, and mineral processing and smelting technology is backward. China is facing a shortage of or insufficiently proven reserves of key minerals such as iron ore, manganese ore, chromite, copper ore, and bauxite. Most key minerals rely on imports from abroad. How can they be mined? Most domestic minerals are found deep down, and deep mining significantly increases the risk and cost, creating a vicious cycle of exhausting the resources. This was the first thought that crossed the minds of all attendees upon seeing the title. The title of today's meeting was even more confusing. If the elders hadn't been sitting right next to him, Chu Hengin would have been attacked and lashed out by the enraged leaders. I know everyone's first reaction to this title is that they think I'm crazy. Chu Hengin laughed at himself. He knew what everyone was thinking without having to guess. Then, with a solemn expression, he said in a firm tone, I can tell you responsibly and confidently that I am very clear-headed and fully aware of what I am doing. I also want to tell you that with the advancement of science and technology, we are about to usher in a new era of resources. He immediately clicked on the next page, because we have superdirectional decomposition materials and ultrafiltration water purification membranes, as well as oxygen reduction extraction and metal extraction and separation technologies. The superdirectional decomposition material, referred to as N18 by its developers, has super decomposition capabilities. It can decompose organic matter currently in nature, and even plastics, chemical fibers. After special treatment methods, it can directionally decompose methane, butane and other alkane gases, and convert them into liquefied natural gas for daily use by residents. In other words, all kinds of garbage that are currently causing us trouble and are difficult to handle can be centrally processed and turned into treasure. Experimental verification shows that 100 tons of kitchen waste can be converted into 2 to 3 tons of gas, and 100 tons of dead leaves or excrement can be converted into about 10 tons of gas. 100 tons of plastic and paper products can be converted into 30 to 60 tons of gas. Statistics show that Chinese residents generate millions of tons of garbage daily, and livestock excrement reaches nearly 3 billion tons annually. Successful conversion of this alone could yield hundreds of millions of tons of natural gas annually, meaning that mastering this scientific research will provide us with a steady supply of organic mineral resources. My country consumes 140 billion cubic meters of natural gas annually, equivalent to 100 million tons of liquefied natural gas and manufactured coal gas. This means that if we effectively utilize this resource, we can fill the gap in domestic gas demand, significantly reduce our dependence on imported natural gas, and eliminate the bottleneck of international supply. Furthermore, these waste products, after desalination, can be converted into natural organic fertilizer, significantly benefiting domestic agriculture and providing significant support for my country's vigorous agricultural development. Secondly, ultrafiltration water purification membranes, combined with reduction extraction technology, can achieve deep resource recovery and reuse. Ultra-green water purification membranes can filter all types of currently polluted water, reducing the wastewater ratio to as little as 1,000th. Through a complementary reduction extraction process, the wastewater can be specifically reduced to various pure metal powders. The more severe the water pollution, the higher the extraction ratio. At the same time, desalination and resource extraction can be achieved, with the average conversion cost under 1 yuan per ton. If we use my country's westernmost coastal cities as our starting point, we will significantly reduce the complexity of the south to north water diversion project. With the technology to convert seawater into fresh water, we will have a steady supply of fresh water, significantly replenishing the arid northwestern regions. This is a strategic transformation to save the country. I believe you all understand the resources contained in seawater better than I do. Furthermore, this technology can deeply and meticulously utilize low-grade minerals. With this technology, my country's mineral needs will be significantly met, and our current dependence on imports of various mineral resources will be alleviated. Chu Hengin spoke at a moderate pace, flipping through the slides as he spoke, highlighting key points. The details Chu Hengin revealed, the data he presented, made the attendees' eyes widen. They stared in astonishment, glued to the screens. The shock lingered in their hearts. When had their country developed such incredible, almost alien-like technology? Which research team had achieved such a major breakthrough? Who's researching this section? Elder Han, Elder Yang? Probably none of them. They're not even in the scientific community. Hearing about progress in this area, how could such a monumental achievement suddenly emerge? Yes, everyone involved, save Elder Chang, the elders, and Chu Hengin, who knew about it, was speculating along these lines. They'd never imagined it could be the work of a single individual. However, this series of supporting components, combined with their interplay, convinced everyone present that this was the work of a single team, not the product of multiple teams. Are these truly real? Not speculative concepts. Are they certain these aren't fabricated data fabricated to garner funding, but are they truly developed and ready for immediate use? Is it truly capable of achieving this incredible, yet long-awaited, effect? At the table, the head of the resources department was skeptical, muttering in astonishment. If so, their department would absolutely approve. Finally, they wouldn't have to worry about how to allocate limited resources to various parties. The nation's resource reserves would be significantly increased, eliminating the need for resource worries. They hoped, more than anyone else, that this technology was genuine. Confirmed, certain technologies have been thoroughly and repeatedly tested by the secret experimental team, and everyone has met expectations. They've truly created a practical product, not something to be developed. The detailed parameter data and repeated experimental data for the ultrafiltration water purification membrane and reduction extraction technology have been submitted to the research department. This is real progress. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Guarantee. Chu Hongyan spoke with a firm, confident voice. As the head of the research department, his pride and arrogance at this major technological breakthrough in China radiated into resolute conviction, woven into his seemingly mundane speech. A devoted Marxist-Leninist, he couldn't help but feel gratitude for the glorious Chinese nation, a heaven-sent star. China's glorious rise was upon us. They had Wu Tong in scientific research and Lu Xiao in planning. These two top-tier geniuses had joined forces to create the grand plan they now saw, offering China an irreplaceable vision. Oh my God, which deity descended to earth to pull off this miracle? Our Greater China researchers are amazing, amazing. Some, eager to hear Chu Hongyan's confirmation, couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Had they not suddenly realized they were in the presence of the elders, they would have burst into curse words. This was a sign of their profound awe. As expected, it was a set of technologies, a groundbreaking new technology. The leader who had so instantly grasped the key point couldn't help but sigh inwardly. With this technology, China had a steady supply of mineral deposits, easily accessible open-pit mines. Just as Chu Bu's first words had foreshadowed, China's resources had entered a new era. Amazing, which colleague? This came so quietly, like a bolt from the blue, it completely blinded us. Exclamations of admiration echoed through the conference room, and everyone couldn't help but glance around, wondering if the mastermind behind this remarkable achievement was even in the room. The nation's top materials developers were surely among them. Could there be a more secretive front in the country? Only a handful of leaders who had come into contact with the N24 bidirectional high-energy material could not help but wonder, could this be another new achievement by that kid? N18, the naming style is exactly the same as N24. If it's her, then the excitement is even greater. Those who had participated in Wu Tong's two project launch discussions were especially impressed. A faint gaze darted towards Cheng Huinan and his apprentice. Xiao Zhang's expression, like theirs, was clearly still unaware. Old Cheng's expression, however, was intriguing. They were all excited and thrilled, but Old Cheng seemed predominantly delighted and pleased, unlike their initial reaction. Old Cheng had done a fantastic job keeping this secret. He was truly blessed to have found such a peerless, divine young apprentice. It was a win without a struggle, a stroke of luck that made one envious. Old Cheng chuckled subtly. His Wu Tong was truly remarkable. Looking at this group, each one of them looked like someone who had never seen the world. Well, they certainly hadn't. He could secretly rejoice, but he couldn't mock them. The progress Wu Tong had brought was astonishing. Even when he first saw it, even after witnessing Wu Tong's astonishing miracles time and time again, he was still astonished. It wasn't much better than the crowd present now. Therefore, he had no right to mock them. Having concluded the technical demonstration, let's move on to the next topic, the production and implementation plan. Chu Hongyan glanced at the elders, and after receiving tacit approval, he turned the page again, moving on to the second major topic of the day. This was the true focus of today's meeting. Good technological achievements must be put to use to benefit China. The mention of production and implementation stirred a lively atmosphere, with opinions swirling. Everyone talked back and forth, and finally a senior academician in the front row spoke up. We must promote such an amazing technology on a large scale so that people across the country can enjoy the benefits of the new energy era. The preparation cost is low, and the gas consumption expenses of people across the country will be greatly reduced. I suggest that we start with a pilot promotion. Nationwide rollout is not realistic at the moment. Although we have the technology, whether it is the transportation and management of garbage, the establishment of deep recycling plants, the sales and promotion of gas after manufacturing, the design of seawater desalination plants, the roadmap of the North Diversion Project, the construction of extraction and separation production lines, we need to accumulate experience step by step. At the same time, we can also make a profit through the sale of gas, and we can also obtain funds for radiating promotion. This is a virtuous circle. Therefore, I suggest that we temporarily select pilot cities for the initial large-scale production and implementation to accumulate experience, and then gradually radiate across the country from point to surface. For example, for deep recycling of garbage and treatment of heavily polluted water sources, we can first conduct a pilot project in Beijing, conduct preliminary trials, and after accumulating rich experience, we can promote it nationwide. For seawater conversion and treatment, We can also establish a factory in Jinshi or the coastal area of Kilu to first explore and accumulate experience. If the technology of the ultra-green water purification membrane is stable and the production capacity can keep up, then we can also start to take over and transform the water plant, starting from the source, so that residents can drink safe water. If the production line model is mature, we can further improve it and realize a movable purification and treatment production line, so that we can clean and replace the water in the currently polluted water sources, rivers and lakes, and restore our natural water sources to the clear state of the rivers and streams in the past. Further curb the current pollution and depletion of freshwater resources, one person's plan for the short term, two people's plan for the long term, and everyone's contribution will make the fire burn high. One by one, effective suggestions were discussed and determined, and the first, second, and third steps in the Huizhou production implementation plan were listed. How to start production, how to prepare the production line, how to build a large-scale automated processing plant. The academicians in engineering and mechanics also offered specific suggestions, some even accepting the assigned R&D tasks. We will absolutely do our utmost to complete all R&D and preparation within this month, and start the first production run as soon as next month. The experts who received the tasks saw the eager eyes of the people, estimated the fastest completion time, and made a firm promise. We are now starting to count the garbage stations in Beijing, promote garbage classification, and summarize the daily data on the amount of garbage generated by various types. We will do a good job in statistics of poor mineral resources, planning of mineral production lines. Connect the design and preparation of the production line for poor mineral extraction and separation plans, and determine the location for experiments. We will do a good job in statistics of water resources across the country, count the current conditions of various water plants, and plan a water plant reform plan. One task after another was assigned, and the participants who received the tasks all looked determined. The elder who sat next to him listened carefully, nodded slightly and said, "Everyone here is the pillar of the country, and everything is up to you. This work is of great importance. We must overcome it as quickly as possible and make efficient preparations for the promotion work. Please also keep it confidential, as this is our major scientific research achievement." Chapter 231, Alliance? Yes, Elder, we will give our all and accomplish our mission. All present swore in unison. For the glory of China, they would conquer the mission at warp speed. The crucial core technology had already been mastered. If they couldn't even provide this little peripheral support, what good would they do? How could they possibly live up to the honor they shouldered? The final item on the agenda, the initial funding for the project, a budget of 5 billion yuan, was unquestionably approved. During the meeting, the decision was made to establish a new resource group, the China's Hongqiang Group, under direct central government management. This group would comprise a resource recycling and reuse unit, a new water and ultrafiltration production unit, and a management department for the desalination and northward diversion project. Responsibilities were clearly defined, ensuring no overstepping of boundaries. However, some disagreement arose over who would oversee the project. It was clear to the naked eye that this group was a golden goose, laying out golden eggs. Resources, Water Conservancy, which department wouldn't want to integrate this project into its fold? However, after a fierce competition in which various opinions were expressed, the research department ultimately emerged victorious, temporarily assuming control, with the other departments providing support. After all, the core technology was submitted to the research department. However, not all profits from this project would belong to the research department. Initial funding was jointly provided by the first few departments involved. Soon, a second core meeting was held. This time, the participants consisted solely of the heads of several major departments, along with several prominent figures in materials engineering and mechanical engineering. These individuals would become the backbone of Hongqiang Group's R&D department, assisting with its facility improvement and preparation projects. After a detailed discussion of the specific implementation arrangements, the crucial moment arrived. Everyone sat down and divided the spoils. Chu Hongqiang wasted no time in announcing the decision. The initial distribution of the group's profits will be allocated, a portion will be used for group development and project expansion, and a portion will be used for research and development expenses. Furthermore, Hongqiang Group will allocate 5% of its shares as individual rewards for R&D personnel, and this 5% will never be diluted. Furthermore, she will serve as our overall project advisor. Chu Hongqiang made his final announcement, finalizing the decision. While the 5% perpetually non-dilution share granted to R&D personnel was a source of consternation, considering the impressive feats of development and the generous investment from higher-ups, they had no objection. They were simply envious of the lavish spending. Whose mastermind created this discovery? Old Chu, it's so secretive, are we not even entitled to know? The head of the resources department looked at Chu Engin curiously. They should have considerable authority within the country, so why was Old Chu referring to R&D personnel? Of course, if you're not comfortable discussing it, that's fine. We know the rules. He simply wanted to know which big boss it was, so he could pay his respects in advance and curry favor. Wouldn't it be wonderful if he could provide the resources department with exclusive technical support in the future? These individuals were the most core of the core, either serving as part-time group managers or key scientific researchers, and would inevitably interact with Wu Tong in the future. While Wu Tong's information needed to be prevented from leaking widely, there was no need to conceal it from internal staff. Everyone's familiar with him. Chu Hengin smiled and looked at Elder Chang. The pride of Peking University, the prover of the Goldbach conjecture, Elder Chang's most distinguished disciple, Wu Tong. As I expected, Elder Chang, your luck is truly enviable. Academician Wan, a mechanical engineer, exclaimed with genuine admiration. This was his third time participating in Wu Tong's project. Each one more astonishing, each more significant. With such a good disciple, Elder Chang must have stood up straight. Elder Chang, how did you find such a good disciple if you don't share? They also wanted to find such a good disciple, and he wasn't greedy, demanding Wu Tong's excellence. Half would be fine. Even half of Wu Tong's ability would rival that of academician Zhao Zhang, Elder Chang's founding disciple. The kids are doing great, it's all thanks to Wu Tong, Elder Chang, not wanting to take credit for it, said, this was all Wu Tong's research and development. I didn't help much. Lu Xiao was the one who helped with the production planning, and I just benefited from the two kids' influence. It was Wu Tong, so it wasn't surprising that the higher-ups would give him such a generous reward. Indeed, Wu Tong had contributed countless achievements to the country before, and the higher-ups were trying to retain such top talent. Of course, some were learning about Wu Tong's research achievements in materials for the first time, but after all, someone in such a position could remain expressionless, and they were happy for the country to have such a top talent. Before we had Lu Xiao, and now we have Wu Tong. Our country has two great talents in its arsenal, and we have successors. This was the boundless emotion of everyone. Old Master, if I remember correctly, Lu Xiao and Wu Tong's areas of expertise don't overlap much. If they join forces, it's bound to be a major undertaking. Commander Chu, why don't they team up and tackle cutting-edge research? It really takes talent and brains like them. Academician Wan clapped his hands, his eyes blazing with excitement. The more he thought about it, the more he thought this was a brilliant idea. These two people essentially independently developed their own projects. If they joined forces, wouldn't there be hope for overcoming some of the country's currently stagnant and intractable challenges? Could their country accelerate its pace to a global leader? Perhaps controlled nuclear fusion could also yield some new advancements. The curse of controlled nuclear fusion being a 50-year lag not only lingers across the sea, but also lingers in China. If they pulled the nation's top researchers to tackle this challenge, wouldn't there be a surprise? They wouldn't have to pay huge annual grants to the joint venture just to keep up with the world's advancements. Master Wan, we'll consult you on this suggestion. This thought crossed Chu Enggin's mind when he saw the plan they had come up with together again. However, whether this combination could work depended on the willingness of these two young men, both considered great scientists. After all, a team only has one leader, and they were both accustomed to taking charge of their own projects. Assisting in different areas was working well so far, but if they were really put together, would there be other disputes? After all, geniuses are proud, and neither will submit to the other. Both were the infinite hope of their scientific research community, and their talents couldn't be used for internal friction. This loss would cause the country unbearable heartache. Fortunately, neither of them was arrogant, and their temperaments were relatively approachable among the top talents. There was still some hope for a combination, and they respected their final decision. Chapter 232 Zhuangyin. With the agenda clarified and the meeting concluded, all attendees, taking their orders, began to implement their plans. Zhonghua's Zhuangyin Group was quietly established, with 5 billion yuan in startup funds allocated to the accounts. Immediately, from top to bottom, Coordinated actions began to be implemented, with several major projects simultaneously underway. While funds were being expended, site selection, factory design and construction, machine development, design and production, and waste disposal reforms were all handled with seemingly unnoticed ease, without drawing undue attention. Only those involved knew the kind of reforms brewing within Songhua. And the initiator of all this, Wu Tong, was also busy. She learned of the decision after her teacher returned. She was deeply moved by the rewards. Initially, she had only sought some discretionary research funding. However, the government's response was even greater than she had anticipated. Research funding was allocated separately, with a fixed annual quota allocated for her to pursue. Furthermore, if she had major projects, she could apply for additional funding. It could be said that everything she had considered, both imaginative and unimaginative, had been taken into account by the higher-ups. How could she not be grateful for such consideration? The nation never treats those who contribute to it unfairly, and her dedication was evident to the higher-ups. Wu Tong, already dedicated to scientific research, now took this matter on as a crucial task, living up to her role as general supervisor. Wu Tong further refined and improved the detailed scale-up process for the preparation of N18, ultrafiltration purification membranes, and honeycomb oxygen crystals. For many instruments, scaling up isn't the end-all, every detail is crucial to success. Since she was doing it, she had to do it to the utmost. Wu Tong dedicated herself to refining the scale-up process to perfection, ready for immediate production. This task alone consumed another full week of Wu Tong's time. The refined process was then handed over, escorted by security personnel, to the officially established Zhongyun Group core team. However, Wu Tong wasn't completely idle, as she not only had to refine the details but also provide guidance to this Zhongyun Group core team as they tackled the challenges of large-scale preparation equipment. Wu Tong is the lead researcher, possessing the clearest understanding of the issues involved. He can quickly provide solutions and detailed guidance, helping the large-scale production line team quickly implement and manufacture the equipment. Although Cheng Lao hasn't yet completed the handover of the School of Materials Science and Engineering's Research and Development Department, his focus has gradually shifted since the second half of last year to assisting Wu Tong in completing one major project after another, repeatedly experimenting and exploring the underlying principles to see if new developments can be made. Wu Tong's research and development theories have also deeply guided him. He further explored Wu Tong's work on the T4 titanium aluminum alloy and, in March, discovered a method for preparing a specialized aluminum alloy. This alloy offers lightweight, good strength, and excellent corrosion and oxidation resistance, making it suitable for use in aerospace and even marine applications. This demonstrates that he's not simply filling a void, but remains relevant. It's a pity, however, that he ultimately lacks Wu Tong's mastery of mathematical model transformation and his natural talent for materials analysis. This aluminum alloy is only considered relatively good compared to existing materials, but it's not as groundbreaking as the T4 titanium aluminum alloy, the base material from which this alloy evolved, designed and developed by Wu Tong. In the past, developing such a material would have been a cause for celebration. However, after witnessing his young apprentice Wu Tong pioneer world-leading materials, many of which were groundbreaking, his perspective has become more refined. Materials that once seemed impressive to him are now disappointment, a somewhat ironic blessing. While it's a shame he couldn't reach the pinnacle, the thought of his country having a talent capable of such extreme advancement, and one who is his apprentice, fills him with a sense of refreshment and pride. Cheng Huinan isn't rushing to report it. He's first arranging to register the material's molecular patent to prevent others from getting ahead. While a domestic patent would be fine, an international one would be a real threat. He wants to select the best and take it one step further. This isn't arrogance, but rather a thorough and thoughtful approach. Cheng Huinan is a seasoned expert and a man of great experience. Arranging repeat preparations and tests, as well as other R&D experiments, Cheng Huinan planned to collect more data to see if he could find a more superior approach. If nothing was found, the data wouldn't go to waste. Wu Tong had been busy recently, so when Wu Tong had some free time, he planned to ask Wu Tong for advice and see if he could offer any new suggestions. As for a teacher asking students for advice, is it shameful? That's because some people have a low level of understanding. It should be an honor for students to surpass their teachers and, in turn, provide guidance. Few true teachers would be willing to see if their students could surpass them. Their teaching and education, beyond just passing on knowledge, is primarily driven by the hope of fresh blood to propel scientific research forward. Otherwise, why have good students been such a coveted commodity since ancient times? He had never been one to be inflexible. Compared to tangible progress, a little face meant nothing. The phrase not being ashamed to ask questions has always been a positive one. Mr. Wu, the pressure differential setting for N18 production, we can determine it. Refer to the N24Z production process. The specific pressure differential should be set to operate the chip. Tong answered the phone, and was immediately bombarded with questions. The team was pressed for time, and everyone was working in a battle mode, leaving no time for small talk. The equipment for N18 production was the easiest to solve, as the proven N24 production process served as a reference. However, for both N24 and N18, the most crucial component is the graphene hexasilicon oxide membrane. This core process, along with the accompanying equipment, is being developed and manufactured by a leading military-grade factory. Funding has already been allocated to Zhangjiang Group, and an order has been placed. Upon completion, the corresponding amount of N18 will be directly delivered to Zhangjiang Group's deep recovery workshop for use on a largely automated production line. Simultaneously, ultrafiltration purification membranes will also be manufactured there and delivered as finished products. Mr. Wu, when preparing ultrafiltration membranes, we need to consider: is there anything else we should pay attention to? Please advise. The most important thing is the preparation of the 7-chain silica. Following the process flow, and finally the deposition and attachment, Tong responded to each question clearly, providing clear guidance. While they were experts in mechanics, they sought to understand Tong's thoughts and ideas in detail, collaborating to achieve the ultimate in processing. Chapter 233 Heading: Mr. Wu, the N18 preparation instrument has been completed and is entering formal production today, producing daily. Mr. Wu, the honeycomb strong oxygen preparation system has been completed and is producing daily. Mr. Wu, the ultrafiltration purification membrane preparation process has been fully integrated, the instrument has been completed and is now in production, producing daily. Mr. Wu, the new Mach-4 production line has been completed and is now in operation. As May dawned and the weather in Shengjing warmed, ushering in the scorching summer sun, one hurdle after another was overcome. Research and development of various preparation instruments, manufacturing processes, and processes were accelerated and completed. Meanwhile, engineers on other fronts were also busy, successfully developing deep water recovery lines, heavily polluted water treatment lines, and seawater to freshwater conversion lines. After precise experimental verification, they immediately entered large-scale production. The good news continued to arrive, adding a fiery touch to the approaching summer temperatures and making the air even more scorching in the joyful atmosphere. China infrastructure has always been renowned for its sophisticated and rapid technology. Soon, the factories that had been selected and put into construction were completed one after another, and the production lines were installed. This indicated that Zhangjiang Group had fully accumulated strength and was ready for final inspection and production adjustments. It was striding forward into a truly new era of resource development. Mr. Wu, the deep recycling production line is complete. We expect full commissioning within 2 days, with actual operation to begin the day after tomorrow. The waste sorting reform in Shengjing is already in place. All waste will be transferred to our deep recycling plant for resource sorting and reuse. We have strengthened waste sorting awareness and will sort it once more before it enters the production line. The initial preparations are complete, and Plant 20 is officially operational. Would you like to come and see it? The responsible academician across from her invited. Tong was arguably the most important person who laid the foundation for everything that has happened today. Her presence would be the ultimate achievement. If you have time, please film me remotely. I won't be going, Tong declined. Traveling would be too much trouble for her, and her presence would easily attract unnecessary attention, so she decided not to go. She had already envisioned the massive processing line during simulations. Although she couldn't witness its spectacular operation in person, the data they would soon transmit, combined with the live video feed, would give her a first-hand experience, without having to see it in person. That day, everyone was focused on witnessing the production line's launch, letting everyone let out their emotions. On May 20th, The weather was clear, and the sky over Beijing was a rare blue sky with white clouds, a pristine, clear sky. A site on the outskirts of Beijing, seemingly resembling a waste treatment plant, was actually the interior of a real waste treatment center. There were no blaring drums or firecrackers, the equipment had been preset, and all the guests had quietly arrived and were waiting. Without further ado, after a simple ribbon-cutting ceremony, the head of R&D gave the order, the power was turned on, and the production line equipment began to operate. After screening, the waste is transported on automated conveyor belts to the processing workshop, where an automated system adds the appropriate amount of N18 catalyst. It then undergoes directional, special light diffraction, and passes through the gas preparation area. After completing all the processes, gas begins to accumulate in the gas storage area. The employees at every stage of the production line are absolutely reliable and have signed confidentiality agreements. Sampling tests confirm that the gas produced by the production line, as demonstrated in the small-scale simulations, is truly suitable for daily use. All the staff members were beaming with joy, some even clenching their fists and pumping them vigorously, expressing their extraordinary excitement. In the distance, piles of waste awaiting processing in the storage area were no longer just despised waste. In their eyes, they were raw materials for gas conversion, hidden treasures, and ready-made oil fields. They were even more reliable than oil fields. After all, China has never been a region with abundant oil and gas resources, and oil and gas resources are generally difficult to extract, requiring huge investment costs, enduring extremely harsh natural environments, and facing enormous risks. Now, they have a new option. Thanks to Chaoshan technology, this waste, once a major environmental pollution problem, has been transformed into valuable fuel for everyday life. Compared to the massive investment costs of oil fields, the conversion cost is incredibly low. The site is provided by the government, the production line is reusable, and even after factoring in the depreciation of production equipment, labor costs, and catalyst costs, the average cost per tank of gas is negligible, with all other costs negligible. The market introduction of this type of gas will undoubtedly have a significant impact on both natural gas and the current market for manufactured coal gas, especially now that gas has become widely available in rural areas. In areas where natural gas is still inaccessible, it will become a direct replacement. No one's money comes from free money, and intelligent Chinese citizens have always calculated their costs. Comparing cost effectiveness is a natural instinct. When a more suitable and favorable option becomes available, people will naturally rush to pursue it. Needless to say, their gas consumption structure will naturally change, freeing the country from dependence on imported natural gas. The gas storage area must be thoroughly inspected. The safety of the gas storage tanks must not be neglected. We must patrol and monitor them 24/7. No sparks are allowed, the head of the processing center reiterated at the top of his lungs. All processes must run smoothly and perfectly, but the paramount safety issue must be emphasized over and over again. There can be no lagging behind in such a naive place. Don't worry, don't worry. Our gas storage equipment and gas tanks are made of a new type of special steel and feature a new reinforced coating for secondary protection. They are much safer than traditional gas tanks. We're planning to further promote this. Unless they were intentionally dropped from a high altitude, there's virtually no risk of explosion. Academician Wan, who was supervising on site, gently patted the head of the unit on the shoulder. While vigilance is essential, one must not become anxious. Prolonged anxiety is not beneficial to production management. Their future tasks are still arduous. Speaking of the new reinforced coating, it's undeniable that the best and brightest attract the best and brightest. Admiring Wu Tong's reputation, Tao Ran and others, who had collaborated with him at the time, abandoned their current jobs, some decent, some not, and rushed to join him after Wu Tong established his team. Tao Ran designed and developed the new reinforcement coating based on Wu Tong's ultra-high temperature resistant coating. With Wu Tong's guidance, this new product was finally developed, perfectly suited to aid in the production of new gas tanks and ensure user safety. Chapter 234 Xingxin. Tao Ran's brilliant achievement instantly reassured the researchers who had flocked to Wu Tong for his work that their decision was wise. They were thrilled to see that, so soon after, they were the first to open their doors, producing an outstanding new product that would soon enter production. The inspiration for this achievement came from Xiao Tao, and they had also contributed to the R&D. Xiao Tao and Mr. Wu were both kind-hearted, and they were all involved in the research, adding significant credit to their resumes. Because it was Xiao Tao's idea, they had no objection to Tao Ran being the first person to be involved in the R&D. Mr. Wu had provided crucial guidance, even without his name on the work. What could they possibly be dissatisfied with? It was common for other research institutes to simply credit Mr. Wu for their achievements. Tao Ran had a head start this time, but they needed to work hard and establish some direction before they could seek Mr. Wu's guidance and achieve new results. Next time, it'll be their turn to lead Tao Ran to an easy victory. They're all working as a team, united in purpose. President Wu is fair and can offer insightful guidance, preventing them from getting stuck in the fog. The future truly holds boundless promise. The thought of this possibility ignited everyone's enthusiasm. They envied, but not envied, Xiao Tao. President Wu was fair, allowing everyone the opportunity to learn from her. However, they were still quick-witted, and had just caught the first opportunity to achieve a breakthrough. The early bird catches the worm. If they work a little harder than Tao Ran, they'll surely succeed. Wu Tong's research institute may not have been completed yet, but members of the team have already arrived, and those who need it need a place to stay. Not to mention that Jingde University had long received instructions from above to provide Wu Tong with the utmost care. Wu Tong was the pride of their Jingde University, a member of their own, and his research institute bore the name of Jingde University. If they stood by and watched, how could they possibly enjoy the glory brought by Wu Tong? Jingde University's funding approvals and the normal application process had been much more accommodating in the past 2 years than before. This was all due to Wu Tong's influence. The university's top brass were already overjoyed to have Wu Tong hired at Peking University. Before Wu Tong could even begin to fret, Director Sun from the Academic Affairs Office came to her house and proactively discussed the university's provision of 2 vacant offices in the School of Materials Science and Engineering to serve as temporary offices for Wu Tong's research team until the institute was ready for relocation. 3 faculty apartments would also be provided as housing for the researchers. Wu Tong appreciated the university's thoughtfulness. The research team offices were essential, so she didn't refuse. Any research achievements, as long as they were suitable, would bring honor to Peking University. However, even if the faculty apartments were rented at Peking University, they would be paid at the current market rent in Beijing. This meant that they wouldn't take up public resources, as many young lecturers still relied on university housing subsidies. It was also a way for her to provide her team members with a subsidy, thanking them for their trust in her and for giving up the positions they had worked so hard for to start over with her. The higher-ups hadn't cut off the funding information they had previously shared with her just because several months had passed. The funds for her 3 small research goals for this year had already been credited. This research fund can be used for normal R&D expenditures, team research rewards, team subsidies, and institute operations. All normal expenditures will be allocated through Wu Tong. With enough money in hand, there's no need to worry. With such a generous amount of funds, Wu Tong can flex her muscles and recruit new talent. For example, the researchers who joined her, including Tao Ran, were all experienced and highly qualified. The core researchers from the Materials Research Institute, with whom she had previously collaborated and who had conducted experiments under a confidentiality agreement, were also transferred to Wu Tong's institute and placed under her management. With more people under her wing, there were more things to consider and handle. She consulted with her teacher and Lu Xiao about salaries and bonuses, and settled on a level slightly above the market and their previous compensation. She couldn't expect people to just work without expecting anything in return. That was presumptuous. While the topic of money might be vulgar, Wu Tong felt it was essential for survival and not shameful. Tao Ran led the team to achieve significant results, and Wu Tong approved another R&D bonus of 200,000 yuan. This is just a preliminary offer. In the future, we'll take 30% of the patent fees for the reinforced coating as a permanent bonus for you, and the rest will go toward the institute's public relations expenses. This bonus will remain as long as the patent remains in use and protected. Zhonggyun Group wasn't using their research for free. During the patent protection period, they'd pay a substantial royalty each year, easily enough to cover several months' salary. And considering future expansion, this fee would likely be even higher. This was because the patent fees were paid based on usage. Such a large organization wouldn't play dirty over such a small expense. Is there such a wonderful thing? Thank you, Mr. Wu. Thank you, God. Thank you, the nation. Several team members, led by Tao Ran, couldn't help but express their gratitude excitedly. They'd only been here a little over a month, and already they had achieved results, high salaries, and even a 200,000 yuan R&D bonus. Divided among the 5 of them, that's 40,000 yuan each, a generous sum. Upon hearing this, they couldn't contain their excitement, secretly praising Mr. Wu's generosity and themselves for their wise decision. Unexpectedly, they could even receive bonuses from patent fees. Logically, the institute paid them high salaries and covered all R&D support. They belonged to the institute, and their research belonged to the institute. They had never considered patent fees or anything like that. Contributing to the nation was an honor. However, neither President Wu nor his superiors ignored them. They granted them a perpetual share of patent fees for the duration of the protection period. Tao Ran and the other 4 were deeply moved, wishing they could dedicate their lives to the team and their superiors. With such a team and such leadership, they were truly blessed to be a part of it. If it weren't for their previous collaboration with President Wu, this connection, and the fact that he was just starting out, they wouldn't have had the opportunity to join his team at all. They were certain that President Wu's team would only grow in size, and that they, the first group to join, would become its veterans. At this thought, everyone tightened their sleeves. They should work harder to improve themselves. Scientific research has always been a place where ability wins the hearts of the people. In the future, the threshold for joining Mr. Wu's team will only get higher and higher, and the people who join will only become more and more outstanding. If they don't have enough ability to keep up with the team, they will just be lost in the crowd, wasting this opportunity. Chapter 235 Xiangrong. Tao Ran and his 5 companions left with high morale, returning to their offices to continue optimizing the reinforcement coating design and exploring new research directions. Each one of them seemed to be energized, their blood boiling with enthusiasm, seemingly possessed by endless motivation. Cheng Huanan, observing this group of enthusiastic young people, couldn't help but smile in admiration. It was wonderful to be young. He had been similarly youthful and vibrant back then. However, back then, they didn't have the excellent research conditions these young people now enjoy, nor did they have a leader like Wu Tong. Given his own perspective back then, the treatment these young people received would have made him drool with envy. You're doing great, Wu Tong. Leading a team isn't as difficult as you thought. Look, isn't it thriving? Cheng Huanan praised with a smile, pushing open Wu Tong's office door. With excellent guidance, generous rewards, and Wu Tong's own charisma and character, the team's cohesion gradually emerged. Wu Tong stood up to greet him. I'm also being pushed too far, so I'll learn slowly from you. I'll strive to ensure their efforts are commensurate with their rewards. Researchers have a hard time. Living in Beijing is difficult, and the pressures of survival are considerable for young people. I'd read somewhere before that the 80s and 90s were a generation of hardship. Today's young people face enormous financial pressures, including high tuition, living expenses, and other expenses, as well as difficulty finding jobs and low wages. These economic pressures leave young people feeling hopeless and lost. They need to work hard to make ends meet, but their income may not be enough to cover basic needs. The rising cost of living also places a heavy financial burden on young people. When life becomes a burden, even the most talented individuals can't focus on research. Therefore, the foundation of our management team, beyond rules and regulations, is more importantly to create a research environment where their efforts are as stress-free as possible and their efforts are rewarding. With minimal effort, fair planning, and a good research environment, it's easier to produce results. She subscribes to the old saying, one heart for another. It's true. Money can make a man fall. Economic progress has indeed brought about many social problems. How to survive and how to improve in this wave will also be a major topic of discussion. Cheng Huanan, who had experienced this in his youth, knows firsthand what it's like to be short of money. Back then, as researchers, their salaries were much better than in the real world, but in his early years, he still struggled financially. Especially in the first few years after having children, he struggled to make ends meet. It wasn't until he gradually achieved research results and rose through the ranks that things began to improve. Now, while he can truly claim to be free of financial worries, an annual salary, research awards, and a government pension, he's completely free of burdens. In fact, if he were willing to work on long-term projects and collaborate with businesses to solve their problems, his assets could multiply several times over. But that doesn't mean he's forgotten those difficult times. It's wonderful that Wu Tong, despite his young age, possesses such a thoughtful and understanding mindset. He had been a bit worried about this. Wu Tong hadn't experienced the worldly hardships of financial hardship. Although his family was only modest, he was incredibly ambitious. Even before he'd even left school, he'd already secured financial freedom through bonuses and housing. He also had the non-dilution dividends from the massive Zhangguan Group, projecting impressive future earnings and ensuring financial security. Now, it seemed his concerns were overblown, and he could finally rest easy. The foundation for the initial start is slowly being built, and the team structure is almost complete. Your seniors have also helped you identify several suitable candidates. Once you're done with your current tasks, schedule a time to come out and conduct a group interview, Cheng Huinan instructed carefully. Wu Tong wasn't expected to accept a recommendation out of gratitude. He needed to comprehensively assess all aspects of the team's qualifications to determine if they were a good fit for Wu Tong's research institute. Although Wu Tong self-deprecatingly described his team as a fledgling startup, the team's profile was high, and the conditions were exceptional. Naturally, not just anyone could be hired, there had to be a threshold. Loyalty to the country, a solid foundation in experimental skills, or exceptional talent, outstanding achievements, a superior character, these all fall under the considerations. Those with questionable morals, no matter how exceptional, should be excluded. We can't let a single bad apple spoil the whole bunch. Some individuals could undermine the vibrant team atmosphere and cohesive spirit that Wu Tong has gradually cultivated. While he still has some respect, it's unlikely that a few students would choose unsuitable candidates. However, everyone has their own considerations, and the candidates the students find suitable don't necessarily fit Wu Tong's needs. Therefore, Wu Tong didn't need to lose face. Yes, teacher, I understand, Wu Tong nodded earnestly. The teacher was wholeheartedly concerned for her, and his advice couldn't have been more practical. Much of her personnel experience came from the meticulous guidance and sincere instruction of her teachers. While you have some free time now, come and give me some advice. He, also from the channel, was present at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the deep recycling production line. Seeing a small part of the plan become the foundation of reality, the older generation was practically in tears. China finally no longer has to be strangled by international competition due to various resource constraints. From now on, natural gas price increases will no longer be driven by the hawks, who repeatedly raise prices and threaten supply cuts. This burden on the country and the people only enriches the suppliers. Teacher, based on the T4 titanium aluminum alloy you developed, I've almost reached the pinnacle of my research on this aluminum alloy. Wu Tong, can you please take a look and see if there's any room for improvement? Here's the data from our repeated preparations and tests. I've tried the co-bonding effect you published, but it's too difficult to master. Even with your guidance, I've only scratched the surface. To develop new materials using T4 titanium aluminum alloy as a precursor, an understanding of Wu Tong's innovative concepts is essential. Wu Tong had previously explained the key points of this alloy to him during his preparation. To better understand the new material, he put in a lot of effort, even consulting Lao Pen and carefully studying Wu Tong's shocking materials paper on the co-bonding effect. However, even though they had a fairly thorough understanding of the material part and had a limited understanding of the mathematics part, they were not Wu Tong and did not have such strong mathematical conversion capabilities, so their progress in this area was still unsatisfactory. Chapter 236 Gold. Fortunately, the person who had developed this profound and difficult theory was his last disciple, so he could ask questions almost any time. Even though it was too difficult for him to figure it out on his own, he still had someone to turn to for help. Compared to the rest of the world still groping for understanding, he was incredibly lucky. No problem, teacher. I'll take a look at the data first, do some preliminary deductions, and get back to you later. Wu Tong agreed without hesitation, accepting the thick stack of information Cheng Huinan handed over. Whether there was room for improvement would depend on her conducting practical deductions. Don't rush, just focus on the work at hand, Cheng Huinan repeatedly urged before leaving the office. The priority remained the aforementioned major task. With deep recycling now operational and production capacity established, the process was complete. Next came operations, promotion, and sales, all handled by exceptionally talented and professional business professionals. With today's young people's active minds, good products with a high value for money, through their marketing efforts, would undoubtedly ensure sales and widespread adoption. Next, Wu Tong had to continue monitoring the progress of the ultrafiltration and resource recycling projects. These were top priorities, and the tasks were daunting. He had only taken advantage of Wu Tong's free time to speak with her, asking her to help optimize them later. He would never bother her when she was busy. "It's okay, teacher. Your experimental data is very detailed, so it won't take much effort on my part. I'll give you a detailed plan tomorrow or the day after tomorrow." While talking to Cheng Huanan, Wu Tong had already reviewed the overview and basic parameters of this new aluminum alloy material. Her mind was throbbing, and since she had single-handedly derived T4, the deduction had become instinctive. She immediately determined that this material had room for improvement and immediately gave Cheng Huanan a deadline. With such a strong foundation already in place, she was simply optimizing the data. If she wasn't worried about offending the teacher, she could have worked overtime tonight and figured it out. Even without overtime and still being delayed by current tasks, she wouldn't have finished tomorrow. Her thoughts drifted briefly, and Wu Tong instantly entered a state of undivided attention. She delved deeply into the data at hand, juxtaposing the information within with her accumulated knowledge. Step by step, she deduced the transformation and optimization, executing the three-step process. Although her work computer was on, Wu Tong was more comfortable with and preferred writing by hand. This feeling of thoughts flowing through her fingertips, converging and spreading under her pen, was her most comfortable research method. From Sichuan's Hanri Mountain, Laotian Mountain winds southwestward, with hundreds of peaks stretching out in a row. Near Rizhao County, the land forms a low plateau close to the coast. In the early morning, when the sun rises, unobstructed by mountains, it shines first. Rizhao, a coastal city in Shandong province, is where the first rays of the rising sun shine. While seemingly unremarkable on the outside, it houses a heavily guarded desalination plant. A massive pipeline, several meters in diameter, empties into the depths of the steep coastline. This coastline originally lacked prime golden beaches, and its water depth was nearly vertical, making it a dangerous area. It hadn't been developed into a popular tourist destination, and naturally, few people visited. Since the area was designated as the first desalination resource extraction center, diversion strategies have been implemented, and now there are almost no pedestrians or vehicles passing through. This precarious geographical location has perfectly suited the water intake, facilitating the massive extraction of seawater. The steel structure building was quickly erected, and the production line was gradually installed. They slowly reclaimed the line for some time, and finally entered the stage of officially cutting the ribbon and commencing operations. 7 o'clock is usually the time when a city begins to fully awaken. Many people might still be eating breakfast, and others might still be asleep. However, at this moment, in front of the seawater extraction workshop, the core team of the Central Plains team, led by academician Han and Professor Chang, had already gathered. All the staff working on the entire production line were in place. Everyone was busy. After a few encouraging words, they cut the ribbon together, concluding the auspicious ribbon-cutting ceremony. Academician Han, a researcher on the purification and extraction production line, raised his hand and waved. Suddenly, the extraction machines, silently crouching around the group, sprang into action, the sound of vast quantities of water being pumped in from afar. Vast quantities of seawater were continuously pumped from thick pipes into the first extraction workshop, the sodium oxide extraction workshop. This element is likely the most abundant element in seawater. Within the completely sealed sodium oxide extraction chamber, honeycomb strong oxygen was rapidly injected. Automated chips controlled the electrolysis voltage and temperature, creating a rapid, temporary, chemical bond-snatching reaction. Large quantities of strong oxygen and sodium oxide were generated, rapidly decomposing the sodium oxide from the vast seawater. Rows of robotic arms, aided by large-scale equipment, rapidly arranged electrolytic magnets on the horizontal surface, drawing out large quantities of strong reduction products. The robotic arms then moved to the sodium storage chamber on the other side, and the power was removed. Vast quantities of strong oxygen and sodium oxide fell like colorful blue snowflakes, creating a dazzling, fluorescent, and dreamy scene. As they fell, the strong oxygen snatching reaction ceased, and the two elements, previously bonded, separated. Once all reactants have escaped from the electrolytic magnet, it's energized again, adhering to the thick layer of reactants on the storage tank's surface to absorb them. The previously detached blue dream crystals are then reattached to the electrolytic magnet, expertly moved, and ready for the next operation. The second section is the gold extraction workshop. The intense oxygen gold adsorption and detachment process makes the shimmering blue dream even more dazzling and beautiful, reminiscent of a fairy tale. In 1872, a chemist published a report mentioning the presence of pure gold in seawater. On average, 0.02 to 0.06 milligrams of gold are found in 1 ton of seawater. While the gold content per unit area of seawater is low, the ocean's vast volume means its reserves are still staggering. Approximately 20 million tons. Despite the low gold content in seawater, extracting it, given the current rising gold price, is a guaranteed profit. Furthermore, gold is a hard currency, holding a unique status. Besides its inherent monetary properties, its non-renewable and stable properties further enhance its value. From an economic perspective, gold offers excellent protection against inflation and serves as a safe haven, consistently ranking among the strategic resource reserves of various countries. Human use of gold dates back thousands of years, when ancient people discovered glittering golden stones by streams and wore them as ornaments. This stone has survived through history and dynasties, and has become what we know as gold. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Step by Step. Anyone who's read popular science knows that Earth's gold reserves are incalculable, with approximately 4.8 billion tons known to humanity. This might seem like an enormous, inexhaustible supply, but in reality, approximately 99% of the world's gold is located in the Earth's core, while only 600,000 tons reside in the crust, and humanity is capable of mining even less. Statistics show that humanity has mined nearly 200,000 tons of gold since the beginning of human history. While this figure may not be significant compared to Earth's total gold reserves, it still represents nearly 80% of the available gold. In other words, without the emergence of new, large-scale mineral resources, gold mining will become exhausted. People have been trying, but have yet to find a cost-effective and efficient way to profitably mine gold from the ocean. But now, China has it. When the crystal blue reactants, attracted by the electrolytic magnets, leave the storage room and enter the next cycle, a thin layer of golden powder appears, a truly dazzling sight. Testing for pure metal confirms it's undeniably gold powder. The seawater then proceeds to the next process, a process that will continue for 10 more years, all aimed at extracting the essential elements from the seawater and collecting resources useful for the nation. While this extraction process yields a small amount at a time, the production line can operate continuously and is significantly safer and less expensive than traditional mineral extraction. Furthermore, it avoids the pollution associated with heavy metal mining and instead improves the environment. For centuries, mercury has been used as a cheap and easy way to collect gold, with 1 gram of gold equaling 6 grams of mercury. Especially in small-scale and illegal gold mining, miners first pump a mixture of sediment from the riverbed into a trough and use a technique called hydraulic mining to separate the gold. Next, because the initially separated gold is of low purity, it is purified by adding a large amount of relatively cheap mercury to the gold particles to form an amalgam. Finally, a torch is used to heat the amalgam, turning the mercury into vapor, leaving the gold behind. Mercury contained in tailings or waste can contaminate nearby soil and aquatic ecosystems. Mercury vapor enters the atmosphere and can travel long distances before being deposited on land and water via rainfall or small dust particles. This would result in massive mercury pollution. Although mercury is a naturally occurring element in the Earth's crust, it is highly toxic to humans and animals, even at extremely low exposure levels. Microorganisms in the environment can convert mercury into methylmercury, a potent neurotoxin harmful to humans and animals. At certain concentrations, methylmercury can damage the body's vital central nerves, causing irreversible damage. Now, China has finally developed new technology that allows for pollution-free extraction. China's gold reserves, while relatively low in global proportion, are neither abundant nor of high quality. Mining is expensive, requiring specialized equipment and a long mining cycle. Yet, China is the largest producer and consumer of gold. China's pursuit of gold has been a constant throughout history. Now, China's gold supply has finally been replenished. After successfully passing through various processing workshops, the water having undergone various extraction treatments, is filtered through ultrafiltration membranes, and the purified water flows into transparent, sealed storage tanks. The clean, clear water, devoid of any fishy odor, is immediately sampled, just as the storage rooms at each process were previously inspected. Soon, the results came in, revealing the truth from 10 random inspections. These are truly the purest water molecules, the purest fresh water, practically pollution-free, with all harmful substances completely filtered out. With the right amount of minerals, this is truly a high-quality water source, meeting drinking water standards and countless levels higher than our current tap water. The head of quality inspection repeatedly reported the good news, his voice hoarse, but he still excitedly reported, his excitement simply overwhelming. As a child from the Northwest, he possessed a mysterious love and cherishment for water. As someone closest to the core team and a young talent currently being nurtured, the head of quality inspection knew that this water would later be transported to the Northwest through the Northwest Water Diversion Project. With this groundbreaking technology and abundant water resources like the ocean, the long dry Northwest will no longer be short of water. No longer would the family wash their faces, hands, and feet with water from the bottom of a single basin, too precious to dare use. Calm down, be careful with your energy. Don't worry, the days ahead will surely be even better. We Chinese researchers are constantly striving and advancing, fighting on the front lines to advance technology. Academician Han gently patted the shoulder of the young leader across from him. He understood the child's excitement. None of the older generation present had not lived and worked in the Northwest, and knew the hardships and water shortages it faced. Everything will be fine, Elder Cheng and his companions nodded expectantly. The purified water we are filtering now will be integrated into the local water network, gradually replacing the aging water plant. Planning for the Northward Diversion Project is already underway. New water pipelines have been developed, resistant to earthquakes, corrosion, and oxidation, ensuring the main pipeline won't need replacement for 30 to 50 years, or even a century. Each technological advancement brought them a surge of pride and confidence, and the courage to articulate goals they once dared not even think about or express. Technology brings progress, and a nation's self-confidence and self-reliance are built on a foundation of growing national strength, fostering greater self-respect, self-reliance, and self-confidence. We must also build more desalination plants and production lines in coastal areas, aiming to connect them to the national water grid, so that everyone in the country can drink safe water and no longer be plagued by water pollution and depletion. The leaders at the helm, one by one, laid out the future development direction, all for the sake of the country and a better life for the people. They are the most fortunate, having witnessed such a miracle in their twilight years, and while they are still able to work, they can continue to contribute to the country, expending their energy. We old bones, we must work harder and quickly arrange the remaining tasks. Don't constantly burden the higher-ups with worrying about these trivial matters. The higher-ups they were referring to Wu Tong, the project's chief supervisor. Only they understood this. Wu Tong's existence was now top secret, giving no opportunity to any malicious forces. Wu Tong's safety is of vital importance and has become an important factor that can affect the level of national progress. It cannot be ignored in the slightest. Chapter 238 Upgrade. Wu Tong, the woman they missed, was currently in her office, using her work computer to review the entire seawater purification process that her father had sent her. The massive equipment was far more impressive than the small-scale experiments she and her junior brother had been tinkering with in the lab. A single extraction could produce tens of thousands of times the volume of any small workshop. The comparison was simply not on the same scale. This time, the above-mentioned officials had also made a major investment. To maintain confidentiality, every process that could be automated was automated. The processing workshops were all set with preset parameters, and only the most core researchers were allowed to operate the operating system. Those allowed access to the freshwater plant had to thoroughly investigate their lineage for at least 3 generations, including relatives and neighbors, to ensure there were no issues. Any questionable connection would result in exclusion. Precisely because of these layers of confidentiality, the outside world might have heard of China's major initiatives, but they had no idea of the specific, groundbreaking changes it had undertaken. With such tight security, the various breakthroughs China had made in the past year had remained largely unnoticed, save for the impressive display of the J-20's long-range cruise missile. She had just received notice that the PL-15 had entered finalized mass production, and was being fitted to the J-20. With its compact size and formidable combat power, the PL-15 gave the J-20 a new, sharper edge. The new, miniaturized PL-15 significantly improved the J-20's already world-leading payload, increasing it by 30%, now exceeding 100% and more than double the power of fighters with payloads of 6-8 missiles. This truly commanding power, with an impressive range of 20,000 kilometers, a combat radius of 6,000 kilometers, instant takeoff maneuverability, superior features, and a powerful engine, coupled with the newly launched fighter's 300-kilometer range, double the striking power of the PL-15, and the threat of double the payload, the J-20 was truly armed to the teeth. It was a truly remarkable achievement. Having personally helped this project reach its peak, Wu Tong felt genuine joy. With this joyful mood, Wu Tong's writing became even more fluent. Soon, she had completely completed her teacher's optimization plan for the new aluminum alloy material, improving performance parameters by 50 to 70%. She felt her trust was well earned. Putting down her pen, Wu Tong stretched her wrists and quickly tapped away on her laptop, quickly documenting the manuscript. Before it was completely dark, she finished the document, encrypted it, and sent it to her teacher. She glanced up at the sky and decided to call it a day, leaving get off work to go home and talk to her family. She would no longer pursue other research. The production line for recycling low-grade mineral resources was a challenging environment to set up, but the basic hurdles had been overcome. The final installation and debugging were still in progress, so she didn't need to oversee it for the time being. With a moment of free time to breathe, she left the office, followed by Wenchu, who followed in perfect sync. Together, they left the research institute. Kei and Wenji were already waiting at the door in their newly upgraded car, Wu Tong's assigned vehicle. While still seemingly unassuming in appearance, its safety and driving comfort were elevated to the highest state of the art. As Wu Tong's importance grew, her benefits were commensurate. Because Wu Tong was at Peking University, security at the university and its surrounding areas had been completely upgraded. It had become the most heavily guarded area, aside from the National Security Council and certain classified locations. A police station stood directly in front of the main gate, staffed by armed special police. The journey from Peking University to Yunnan took about 10 minutes, and there were 3 patrol cars, both fixed and mobile. Despite this security situation, even after leaving the university gate, 2 waiting cars quietly joined Wenji's vehicle for protection until they were transported to the residential complex. Yunnan's property security had also been upgraded. Yunnan's security personnel were already specially recruited veterans, but not only were these existing guards trained, but security personnel were also quietly deployed, significantly increasing Yunnan's security significantly. All of this improvement was made quietly, but as someone involved, Wu Tong was aware of it, and no one had deliberately concealed it from her. She was grateful for the thoughtful arrangements made for her, and she could now rest assured that her parents were safe there. As for her, she tacitly cooperated with the security arrangements, trying her best to stay in the same place and not make any special changes to cause trouble to the people protecting her. Kei and the other 2 sent Wu Tong upstairs, and only retreated when they saw Wu Tong and Wenchu enter the room. They now have official identities. Wang Ji's role is the driver, and Kei's role is the bodyguard, which is their job. It is natural for them to intervene in Wu Tong's life, which also makes it easier for the protection work to proceed. Wenchu intervened as a life assistant, and was able to carry out close security to the end. She followed Wu Tong in and went back to her room. She did not go out unless necessary, and did not cause any disturbance to the life of the Wu family. Wenchu's room was the bedroom that had been reserved for the study. Because Wu Tong was close to the school, she had offices in the School of Mathematics and the School of Materials. The study was not used much at home, so she could just put a desk in the bedroom. The living space was large and not crowded. Wu Jingzhong and Jinyu had set up a book bar in the living room on the side closest to the balcony. Wu Jingzhong would occasionally handle work at home, or Jinyu would prepare lessons at home, and both would complete their tasks here. The living room was spacious enough to avoid feeling crowded. Grandpa, Grandma, Dad, Mom, Uncle, the Wu family was bustling with activity at the moment. The elderly couple and Jin Yuan and his wife came up from downstairs, chatting and laughing as Wu Tong entered. As soon as they saw Wu Tong enter, the family's attention suddenly shifted to Wu Tong. Tong, come and eat some freshly opened melons, they're so sweet. Oh, what a great time today. I wasn't busy and came home early, and it just so happened that you came back early too, Tong. How wonderful, Jin Yuan said with a cheerful smile. His business had recently moved to Beijing, and in order to establish himself as quickly as possible, he had been leaving home early and returning late every day, working day and night. Tong had also been busy with a project recently and was quite busy. They lived so close to each other upstairs and downstairs, and it had been a while since they had seen each other, which really made him miss his child. So, today, as soon as he had time, he hurried upstairs with his family. Surprisingly, he ran into Tong, who had also arrived home early, which was really great. Uncle, doesn't this just show that we have such a good rapport? I just happened to have successfully completed a small research project today, and I didn't need to keep an eye on other things, so I came back early. Chapter 239 Great Joy. Ha, what a wonderful connection. A tacit understanding made Jin Yuan beam with pride, his goofy grin making the others feel uncomfortable. Wu Jingzhong felt a little jealous and wanted to throw his brother-in-law out. It was only natural that he and his daughter had such a tacit understanding. You're the only one who stands out. Are you hungry, Tong? Let's get dinner ready. Everything's ready. Grandma Jin smiled and took Wu Tong's hand as they headed to the dining hall. They had originally planned to reserve some for Tong, but now that Tong was home, it was perfect for a family reunion dinner. They were enjoying Tong's blessing and were living a carefree life. They lived in a large house in the capital, Shangjing. The neighborhood was elegant and tranquil, with all the amenities available. If they wanted to go out for a stroll, they were close to two of China's top universities and the Summer Palace. Everything was arranged for them at home, leaving them with nothing to worry about. They were truly enjoying their retirement. Upstairs lived their daughter, son-in-law, and eldest granddaughter, while downstairs they lived with their son, daughter-in-law, and children, all within easy reach. Their son's business is thriving, their daughter has a stable job, and their child is promising. The old couple are in good health, spending their days exercising and strolling, with no regrets. Wu Tong rolled up his sleeves, preparing to join the family in the kitchen. Jin Yuan seated him at the dining table. Tong, you've been busy at school all day. You must be exhausted. Take a break. Let your uncle serve the dishes. I've made you a cuttlefish and pork rib soup, cooked to perfection. How about my granddaughter trying it? Jin Yuan has always had some cooking skills. He saw his daughter and son-in-law studying mathematics, and his ambitious son taking an entrepreneurial training course. He felt he couldn't be idle all the time, so he found something to do, focusing on making soup, determined to provide a good meal for his precious granddaughter. Tong's research demands a lot of mental energy, and nutritional needs are crucial. His focus was clear, he and his wife were fine. He knew that as long as he could do his logistics work well, he could protect his own health and not cause any trouble for his child. This was his greatest help. Grandpa's cooking skills are absolutely amazing. I'm going to have 2 bowls later. Wu Tong still clung to the old man like she did when she was little. For them, the best comfort was knowing that the younger generation still needed them, which made them feel that they were still important. As expected, Jin Yuan was happy to eat this. He immediately opened the soup pot in the middle of the dining table with a smile on his face and poured Wu Tong a bowl of soup. It contained Wu Tong's favorite pork ribs with crispy bones, as well as soft, slightly chewy cuttlefish with a great taste. The soup was delicious and the meat was tender. After a busy day, drinking such a bowl of soup was really a relief. The central air conditioning in the room released a most suitable temperature. The family was lively and cheerful while eating. This kind of family reunion happiness is always the most relaxing and refreshing. Wu Tong's expression relaxed, enjoying the peace and quiet of her family. She put her research aside for the moment. She focused on being with her family as soon as she got home, and on her research at school and in the lab. With peace of mind and a lack of worries, she naturally felt less troubled. Recharged, Wu Tong returned to school the next day to resume her efforts. The Zhangyin group project was essentially finalized, and she could almost hand it over to the professionals. Future development would naturally be handled by the professionals. The project was so significant that a supervisory department had been appointed to monitor the accounts, and with close scrutiny from above, corruption and other unfortunate situations could be avoided. Her work, having been handed over and fully utilized, would have a positive impact and provide valuable assistance to the country. That was enough for Wu Tong. She didn't worry much about management matters, that wasn't her primary concern. She had dedicated herself to assisting the project, having resolved all the issues that had arisen. Now, she was at the final stage of her work. Of course, Wu Tong didn't have the luxury of a life of permanent peace and security yet. But for those truly passionate about research, the joy of every learning experience, every overcoming of obstacles, and the thrill of building upon a foundation is an immersive experience. With joy in her heart, Wu Tong continued her research into the NS equations and carbon fiber materials. These two areas would be her next priorities. She had accepted Mr. Liu's invitation to conduct preliminary research for the soon-to-be-launched J35. The J20 has already pushed current technological limits. How the J35 could overcome these limitations would be a crucial question. Beyond achieving faster flight and greater combat power, Wu Tong considered whether finding a general solution to the NS equations would offer even more remarkable breakthroughs in the aerodynamic design, which had already reached its limits. With this expectation in mind, Wu Tong devoted herself even more fully to her research, her forte. As Wu Tong immersed herself in her research, the entire Zhangguang group, from top to bottom, and even the nation itself, churned along like a wound-up spring. The route survey and design for the northward desalination project have been finalized. As groundbreaking ceremony for the 10-kilometer-long, reinforced steel water pipeline was underway, a production line for the recycling of impoverished materials began operations in distant Xinjiang province. The machines churned. The honeycomb's intense oxygen absorption reaction, reduction and adsorption, churning out tons of remarkably pure copper and iron powder. The person in charge, overjoyed at the data, practically beamed with excitement. This pure quality and fine particle size of iron powder eliminates the need for the initial feed reduction step and allows for direct further processing. The engineer in charge of inspecting the iron powder was the chief engineer of the first steel plant. With decades of smelting experience and a proven track record of quality, he knew the high quality of the powder the moment he touched it. He excitedly exclaimed, "We'll take as much of this quality iron powder as we can, haha, it depends on the allocation from above." Song Qingyan, the person in charge of the impoverished mine deep excavation project, quipped, "That's exactly what I wanted. Such high-quality iron powder will undoubtedly be in demand, in particular. Their processing costs and mining difficulty are extremely low. With the added capacity from desalination, they will be able to produce a continuous supply in the future, simultaneously reducing their demand for iron ore on the international market. They will no longer have to endure the occasional hikes in offshore prices by those hook-nosed giant iron ore miners. It's truly heartening, a surge of relief overflowing from my heart. Thinking back to the anxiety and anticipation I felt before leaving to oversee the establishment of the processing plant, and the joy I felt now, a crisscross of emotions nearly brought tears to my eyes. Their nation, standing tall in the east, the dragon of the east, truly must soar to the heavens once again, regaining its place of admiration. Recalling the splendor of the Tang dynasty, the grandeur of the nation, their nation has been waiting for far too long. Unleash it with all its might. They will stand tall and let the world cheer. Chapter 240 Promotion. The June sun blazed brightly, but the scorching heat couldn't dampen the excitement of consumers lining up to buy gas near Shanghai. The government is offering relief through subsidies and discounts, offering gas at half price. A typical 15 kilograms tank of household gas costs around 100 yuan, and that's the price for filling it yourself at a gas station. If you have it delivered, there's usually an additional 10 to 15 yuan in labor costs. Now, the government's relief efforts are truly beneficial to consumers, with a half-price offer. Upon hearing the news, eager people lined up outside gas stations, especially the dama, old women, constantly calling friends and family. While the dama, old women, of Shanghai are well known, they reign supreme here, their connections far and wide, and their competitive edge is unmatched. As a global capital, Beijing attracts a large number of migrant workers from Beijing who have moved to the city for work. With soaring rents and the cost of living rising, saving money is crucial. Residents and tenants in urban villages and residential complexes are often the main sources of these lines. "Hey, young man, is it really half price?" an elderly woman in the front row asked in disbelief. The government doesn't want to pay for gas anymore. If this weren't a regular gas station, they would be worried they were being scammed. "Yes, Auntie, this is a regular gas station, not a small workshop. This is the government helping consumers with real subsidies." After the promotion is successful, the gas price will be further adjusted, the young man working at the gas station replied with a friendly smile. They all received professional training again. The government is really doing practical things. Oh, that's great. Thank you to the country and thank you for taking care of the people. It's not easy for us ordinary people. Some people in the crowd couldn't help but sigh, and many more people, although silent, were also grateful. Furthermore, we've revolutionized our gas tanks, making them several times more durable than before. As long as you don't drop them from a building, we guarantee they'll work flawlessly. Furthermore, our new tanks feature a special safety valve developed by researchers. If gas leaks unexpectedly, such as if you forget to close the valve, it automatically closes, preventing the risk of a leak or explosion. Of course, we still need to be mindful of the necessary precautions. Just because scientists and engineers are working hard to improve our safety standards doesn't mean we should become complacent and neglect our own safety. Closing the valve promptly after using gas is crucial. The worker continued to explain the new benefits to the people in line, along with the essential safety education. Every year, countless lives are lost due to gas leaks, fires, and even fires. Safety education is a crucial priority for every gas station staff member, and this information is even displayed directly on the walls of gas stations with pictures and text. You can bring your old gas tanks in and exchange them for new ones at no extra cost. This is one of the main attractions of this public welfare program. Oh my, such a great thing. Thank you so much for the government's kindness. Hurry up and send your gas tanks over. We still have a little gas left, we need to replace it too. The sooner we use it, the safer it will be. Hearing about the free gas replacement benefit, everyone got even more excited. Some of the more impatient ones were already yelling at their family members who were slow to respond. If you don't seize this good opportunity, what are you waiting for? If you wait, you won't be able to eat anything fresh. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and call us. I've got the gas tanks. Someone, feeling incredibly wise, started shouting frantically. Okay, come one by one, I'll get it done. Don't worry, everyone. We'll make sure everyone gets it, the staff maintaining order repeatedly reminded everyone with their small loudspeakers. This wasn't someplace else, it was a gas station. Crowding was a no-go. Meanwhile, the gas delivery staff were also promoting the event, ensuring its widespread impact, reaching all of Shengjing and even the surrounding areas. With the help of higher authorities, the pace of popularization was dramatically different. Official gas stations were immediately established, and production lines were running at full capacity. 4 parallel lines, one at full capacity, could produce approximately 50 tons of gas daily, supplying the entire Shengjing gas station and gradually replacing traditional liquefied gas. Funds invested in the production line construction were also rapidly being recouped. The project funds began to generate profits, with a second processing center serving Tianjin and Hebei, and a third serving Heishi. Multiple locations were being established simultaneously. As for the pains of transformation and the losses suffered by the petrochemical company, these losses were naturally borne by higher authorities. As a state-owned enterprise, everything still had the final say. Pains of transformation were inevitable, and everything had to give way to development. While the petrochemical company was somewhat unhappy, they also understood that decisions made by higher authorities were unquestionable. Fortunately, as a state-owned enterprise, the government, after taking over the gas sector, would naturally not assess their operations. Employees were retrained and reviewed. Aside from those identified as problematic and corrupt by the supervisory authorities, the rest remained in their original positions, merely under a different umbrella. They had tried to raise this issue with their superiors several times, even considering the idea of transferring the new gas to them since traditional liquefied gas could be infinitely compressed. However, after considering this, the higher-ups rejected the suggestion of transferring the gas to a second-hand dealer and increasing the burden on the people. As a state-run enterprise, they naturally prioritized public welfare, rather than profiting from their own profits and allowing second-hand dealers to mark up prices and burden the people. Instead, they should integrate the entire process from source to sales, passing on the profits to consumers. The country belongs to the people. People's sovereignty is the most indispensable foundation, and all development must be guided by the interests of the nation and the people. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away in Rizhao, water prices were also reduced, accompanied by the replacement of aging water pipelines throughout the city. The desalination plants were unsatisfied with the idea of pumping out the purest water only to have it contaminated by the residents' homes. Old pipes, corroded and oxidized over the years, inevitably contaminate the clean water. Even so, many people in Rizao have noticed that their tap water has become more delicious, no longer tasting like the usual disinfectant. They were particularly impressed by the news that their water bills would be cut in half. In today's internet age, many netizens quickly shared this news online, which immediately caught the attention of people across the country. Even cities where the service hasn't been widely adopted have called for lower gas and water prices. Chapter 241 Wait. Relevant departments have issued a special statement, announcing that the country is committed to promoting public welfare projects, previously focused on pilot cities. The state plans to invest hundreds of billions of yuan to oversee the construction of a series of public welfare projects. They will accelerate the pace of promotion, bringing these policies to every household and throughout the country, ensuring that the people of the nation feel the warmth of the nation. Since the rollout is gradual, they can wait, they must give their superiors the time they need. After the successful launch of the deep mining project, Cheng Huinan immediately returned to Shangjing. His first order of business was to head straight to Wu Tong's office. "Teacher, you're back? Did everything go smoothly on your journey?" "Thank you for your hard work." Wu Tong quickly rose from her desk, ushered the still tired Cheng into the lounge area, and offered her a cup of warm water. Her office wasn't without tea. Coffee and tea were specially provided, laid out casually. The level of care her superiors provided her was truly top-notch. However, for someone traveling long distances, tea drinking wasn't ideal. "It's okay, I'm still strong enough to run around like that." Cheng Huinan slowly drank some water and waved Wu Tong off, telling her not to worry. Wu Tong had already accomplished such a significant feat. They were just running errands and supervising the installation of the production line on site, out of the elements. It wasn't hard work at all. Everything went smoothly. Several projects were successfully completed. The metal powder extracted by the Xinjiang Extraction Center is of extremely pure quality and can be directly processed. "Wu Tong, you've truly made a significant contribution." Cheng Huinan couldn't help but feel excited at this. For those of us of the older generation, nothing was more desirable than seeing the country they had dedicated their lives to growing stronger. From the very beginning, they had dedicated themselves to the rise of China. Just like President Zhou's youthful ambition to study for China's rise, this conviction has permeated their lives, becoming their unwavering purpose and deeply ingrained in them. I've only produced some results. The ones I really want to thank are the courage, decisiveness, willingness to promote, and trust in me. They're all important, Cheng Huinan concluded, then quickly changed the subject, which was the reason he'd rushed straight to Wu Tong's office upon returning. "I took a look at the document you sent me in my free time. It's truly brilliant. I have a few questions I don't quite understand. Can you explain them to the teacher?" After taking a breath, Cheng Huinan swiftly pulled out his notebook and a stack of printed documents from his briefcase. As an older man, he was still more accustomed to paper documents. Of course, he wasn't a stubborn, inflexible person. He would still use technological advancements like computers when necessary. It was just his reading habits that he wouldn't change when conditions allowed. After printing the stack of documents in the confidential room, he kept the briefcase with him day and night, ensuring they were perfectly safe. "Wu Tong, look, this, and this." Cheng Huinan flipped open the document, pen in hand, and circled and underlined the points of doubt, questioning them one by one. Wu Tong glanced at it, and the research from that time immediately flashed through her mind. She grabbed a piece of paper and began to recount it to Cheng Huinan. The two of them, old and young, discussed for 2 solid hours, until Cheng Huinan completely grasped the material optimization plan. "Teacher, I won't say much. You're a co-developer of this material, so don't refuse. You deserve it," Cheng Huinan promised firmly, then stood up. "I'll go to the lab and oversee the experiments. Wait for good news." With that, Cheng Huinan stormed off, not giving Wu Tong a chance to speak. He had only achieved top-tier domestic performance with this material, but Wu Tong had pushed it beyond world-class standards. This optimization was akin to complete reinvention. Giving Wu Tong a co-researcher was already a great honor for him. Wu Tong laughed. Well, she felt bad for accepting the teacher's kindness. Fortunately, she hadn't skimped when helping the teacher with the optimization plan. It was a genuine optimization, so she'd made a contribution, not just white-collar work. After seeing Cheng Huan off, Wu Tong returned to her desk and continued with the deduction she was working on. The Navier-Stokes equations, the equations of motion that describe the conservation of momentum for viscous incompressible fluids, are known as the Navier-Stokes equations. These equations of motion for viscous fluids were first proposed by Navier in 1827, considering only the flow of incompressible fluids. Poisson proposed the equations of motion for compressible fluids in 1831. St. Venant and Stokes independently proposed a constant form for the viscosity coefficient in 1845, both known as the Navier-Stokes equations, or Navier-Stokes equations. The existence of smooth solutions to the Navier-Stokes equations in three-dimensional space was designated one of the 7 Millennium Prize problems by the Clay Mathematical Institute in the United States. It was never a simple problem. Wu Tong enumerated the various conditions one by one. A fluid is continuous, emphasizing that it contains no internal voids, such as dissolved gas bubbles, and no aggregates of mist-like particles. Another necessary assumption is that all involved fields, such as pressure, velocity, and temperature, are differentiable. The Navier-Stokes equations, derived from the fundamental principles of conservation of mass, momentum, and energy, sometimes require the consideration of a finite, arbitrary volume, called a control volume, to which these principles can be easily applied. Delving deeply into the mysterious realm of pure numbers, Wu Tong's mind is free and unfettered, a joy that draws one deeply into the process. A constantly changing pen, a stack of pre-prepared draft paper, and a quiet, undisturbed space are all Wu Tong needs. Having long been involved in this field, she has many ideas about the Navier-Stokes equations. These ideas have now been transformed into deductive directions, and Wu Tong has selected the best path forward, gradually driving her progress on the equations. Regarding fields, regarding the continuity of fluids, Wu Tong's pen unfolded line after line of deductive formulas, unhurried. Her mind remained calm and composed, building a solid foundation bit by bit, slowly moving forward. The end would eventually be reached. The road to success is always a long one, and only by remaining calm can one go further. To a certain extent, Wu Tong didn't obsess over a single obstacle. Failure to overcome a particular point simply meant her accumulated knowledge wasn't sufficient, and it wasn't something she could resolve with a single, focused thought. Therefore, at such times, Wu Tong preferred to shift her focus, delving into other areas, delving into literature she hadn't encountered yet, and continuing to expand her knowledge. By drawing inferences from one instance to another, or by continuing to explore new areas, she naturally found solutions to problems, extending her path forward. Chapter 242 Asking Farmers. As word of the public welfare projects spread, online discussion raged. Some praised the government's achievements, expressing gratitude and thankfulness for promoting public welfare projects and caring for ordinary people. There were also those who took advantage of the situation to cause trouble, or those with ulterior motives, including trolls and antisocial comments. However, these comments were often promptly censored before they could gain traction. After a series of discussions and assessments, authorities recognized that the internet cannot be a laissez-faire preserve, allowing anyone to freely wield their keyboards and speak freely. Ultimately, they established an internet regulatory agency and introduced a policy requiring real name authentication. Furthermore, they expanded online illegal activities to include law enforcement, cracked down on them, and increased penalties for several prominent troll public intellectuals. It's crucial to make some lawbreakers understand that the internet isn't a lawless place. Legal checks and balances must be implemented everywhere. Don't assume you can act recklessly just because you're connected. Everyone must be responsible for their own actions. The gradual implementation of various internet control policies and the establishment of the internet police have indeed further strengthened government control over the internet. At the same time, they were also inspired by the incitement of those sour chicken public intellectuals. Why should those lawless elements be allowed to steer speech in a direction detrimental to the country? They could also guide it in a positive direction, restoring peace to the internet and ensuring it truly fulfills its fundamental purpose of disseminating accurate information. This is another crucial responsibility of the internet regulatory authorities. A single thread can affect the entire network. The higher-ups had already made every possible preparation, and the current situation is far better than their worst-case scenario. Furthermore, their decision was correct. The changes brought about by the thoroughly implemented production line have delighted everyone. These are the foundation for their rise to prominence in the East, and will also lay the foundation for the entire country and stabilize the people. All of this is thanks to Ms. Wu, who has achieved such remarkable results through scientific research and driven the progress of society as a whole. Through the effective guidance of the Internet regulatory authorities, all speech is ultimately biased towards positive national interests, further enhancing the country's cohesion and credibility. This is precisely the mission of the Internet regulatory authorities. Minister Chu, we've been preparing large-scale fertilizers. During the decomposition process, we've produced a batch of natural fertilizers, and we've already accumulated quite a bit, the heads of the deep processing plant and the desalination plant simultaneously reported to Chu Hengyan, who was currently temporarily overseeing the entire project. Natural fertilizer, even though Chu Hengyan didn't come from an agricultural background, he possessed the necessary sensitivity to reach this position. This byproduct is a good thing. China's agricultural culture has shaped the nation, its values, and its economic, social, and political systems. It has played a vital role in the development of the Chinese economy. Agriculture has been an integral part of the Chinese economy since ancient times, and it continues to play a crucial role today. China has a vast population base, and as the saying goes, food is the first necessity of the people. Agriculture is the primary industry, the foundation of the national economy, and the most basic material production sector. Food is humanity's most basic resource for survival, and agriculture's fundamental role in the national economy is most evident in its production. China accounts for approximately 1/10 of the world's arable land and feeds 1/5 of the world's population. Agriculture is the source of food and clothing for the general public, the very foundation of their survival. In today's developing and progressive society, farming remains a challenge for farmers. Weather, disasters, and even with high-yield seeds, income from farming remains meager. Many farmers migrate to cities for work, earning far more than they could from cultivating their few acres of land at home. To support their families, many are forced to abandon their jobs and move to the cities. This results in vast tracts of land being left unused and misused. This, in turn, widens the food gap for an already overburdened population, necessitating international imports. This, in turn, provides opportunities for those with ulterior motives to intervene in China's economy. While the food war may be fought without bloodshed, it has real implications for people's livelihoods and social stability. Whoever controls oil controls all nations, whoever controls food controls humanity, whoever controls the currency controls the world. This timeless statement reveals the crucial importance of food. Food is crucial to every ordinary family's daily meals. It's happening right here in the lives of ordinary people, balancing the vital importance of livelihoods. The process is truly thrilling. The hype surrounding grain production has benefited some, and some international organizations have frequently hyped up the food crisis. These great white sharks have even upended the economies of many small countries, negatively impacting domestic markets. China urgently needs to seize this initiative. Chu Hengyan's eyes flickered. Perhaps, their agriculture could find a new path forward? Hadn't Mr. Wu already considered this when developing these findings? Agriculture was a subsidiary component of that grand plan. This was a crucial matter, and Chu Hengyan inquired about the specific specifications of the organic fertilizer. After desalination, it's a superior organic fertilizer. It eliminates some of the shortcomings of current chemical fertilizers. It doesn't cause soil compaction, offers comprehensive nutrients, lasts longer, and produces zero pollution. Each of these advantages circumvented the shortcomings of common chemical fertilizers. Ultimately, the two responsible individuals reached a consensus. It's suitable for large-scale promotion, replacing the common compound fertilizers currently on the market. In the past, when people couldn't fill their stomachs, they pursued high yields. But now, while grain yields are still relatively high, the nutrients are being severely lost. This situation isn't a long-term solution. Now, their byproduct is an organic fertilizer that is extremely valuable and requires no waste. If it can be promoted, their people-benefiting project will once again add a heavyweight player, and Tong Group, or their departments, will have another source of income. Even better, if it is transported well, it can also bite off a piece of meat from the international market and break the international monopoly. Chu Hengyan would naturally not be surprised by the prospects that his subordinates can think of. After hanging up the phone, Chu Hengyan called Wu Tong on a confidential number. Mr. Wu, this is Chu Hengyan. Excuse me, I need to delay a little of your time to ask some questions. Is it convenient now, Minister Chu? Go ahead. Wu Tong was stunned for a moment, then realized who it was. She had seen him before. The byproduct of our production line, organic fertilizer. Chu Hengin reported all the parameters again, and got confirmation of a favorable direction from Wu Tong. He humbly asked again, Mr. Wu, do you have any opinions on the promotion of organic fertilizers and the development of agriculture? Chapter 243 Helping Farmers. The most important thing, the foundation of the country. Wu Tong paused for a moment when suddenly asked about a livelihood issue so unfamiliar to her. However, her knowledge spanned a wide range, particularly agriculture, which happened to be Wu Jingzhang's primary area of expertise. Growing up, Wu Tong had been exposed to it, so while it wasn't impossible to answer, she also had some understanding of the current agricultural landscape. As the saying goes, if you skip a meal, you'll be hungry. Agricultural products are essential. Rice, flour, vegetables, and fruit are essential for daily meals, and no amount of scrimping or saving is possible. Domestic agriculture has remained largely unchanged for 5,000 years, still relying on the weather. At most, manual labor, such as oxen pulling the plow, has been replaced by mechanized planting and harvesting, easing farmers' labor. However, the added costs of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and renting machinery mean that farmers still don't have much income from farming. With the increasing ease of buying and selling, it's no longer the case that if you don't farm, you won't have food. Rather than farming for meager incomes, people prefer to work in cities to improve their family finances. This has resulted in large tracts of abandoned farmland, reduced grain production, and increased reliance on imports. This is unfeasible both from an international perspective and from the perspective of long-term social development. Therefore, ensuring that farmers earn an income and are profitable, and promoting scientific, large-scale planting, are paramount development priorities. Help farmers, enrich farmers, and effectively increase farmers' incomes, to make farmers' wallets bulge, to benefit the people, to plant scientifically, to plant specialty crops. Wu Tong briefly expressed some of her views. While still immature, these expressions were based on a broad enough perspective. Chu Hengin nodded seriously. Yes, this is not a long-term solution. Agricultural development has always been a priority for top leaders, leading to the introduction of numerous favorable policies, such as rural revitalization, as well as various national and local subsidies. Ultimately, however, he concluded, as Wu Tong had suggested, the most practical thing was to ensure farmers saw income. With so many people bustling about for profit, those willing to farm will naturally work harder. Why worry about agricultural development? Foreign farm operation models, domestic agricultural development, how to promote them to encourage farmers to cultivate and establish a new agricultural system, this is a fundamental issue that needs to be considered. Excuse me, Mr. Wu. We'll discuss in detail how organic fertilizers can better contribute to agricultural development. Chu Hengin thanked him before hanging up the phone. He then used the desk phone to call the Department of Agricultural Development. After Wu Tong hung up, she pondered the issue deeply, listing on a piece of paper the factors that would support agricultural development: appropriate industry selection, practical technical training for farmers, technical support, organizational leadership, and production market integration. High-quality seeds and technology are essential, and the crops grown must be marketable and fetch a good price. Science and technology are the primary productive force. And agricultural product sales have always been the primary source of income for farmers. Currently, agricultural product sales channels in rural areas are relatively limited, resulting in low purchase prices and low incomes. With the rise of live streaming, many regions have seized market opportunities and leveraged the power of Internet Plus to effectively increase farmers' incomes. They have begun developing live streaming studios and e-commerce platforms to support farmers. They have invited popular influencers to conduct live broadcasts to support farmers. In many places, village first secretaries or university-educated village officials have also launched live broadcasts to introduce their local specialty agricultural products to netizens nationwide, building a bridge between consumption and farmers. The ultimate goal of technological development is to benefit the people. Scientifically expanding sales channels and using technology to increase sales channels will increase agricultural production and farmers' incomes, helping farmers enrich themselves and drive rural revitalization in all aspects. Wu Tong heavily emphasized the integration of production and marketing and technological support. He emphasized that high-quality seeds, Planting techniques and government support for agriculture have never ceased, and these have already laid a solid foundation. However, good transportation is essential for sales. While transportation is now very convenient, the policy of connecting every village with roads has been effectively implemented. The only issues facing this expansion are the timeline and construction difficulties, leaving many remote areas unreached. Furthermore, highway construction is currently prohibitively expensive. How long will it take to achieve a small goal per kilometer? It's truly a matter of sheer expense. Beyond the high construction costs, the most crucial issue is the substantial annual maintenance costs. Some difficult areas lead to poor construction quality, necessitating annual renovations. China's vast territory, diverse geological formations, and the threat of erosion from natural disasters like storms, earthquakes, and landslides all add up to the high costs of highways. However, if you want to become wealthy, you must first build roads. Without accessible roads, how can you sell your products? How can we achieve rapid, long-distance interaction? How can we ensure smooth production and sales? How can we reduce these costs while also ensuring they are adaptable to diverse environments and resilient to natural disasters? Especially for areas with severe landslides, including those involving mountain tunnels, can we use better materials, combined with current earthquake-resistant steel, to create safe tunnels to ensure the safety of passing vehicles? Ultimately, this is still a materials problem, and materials problems can be translated into mathematical models. If there's a problem, there's a solution. They need a superior material to achieve this vision. Wu Tong still has 2 or 3 major projects on hand, and she's still only accumulating basic knowledge on the new energy battery sector she'd suddenly come up with, and she hasn't even started yet. Adding another project to her arsenal didn't seem like too much. However, compared to her previous solo efforts, she now has a team, and they can assist with some basic preparations. With this in mind, Wu Tong stood up and headed to the team office. Mr. Wu. As soon as Wu Tong arrived at the office door, she was spotted by a researcher who glanced up at the door. The researcher immediately called out, and the others followed suit, smiling and greeting Wu Tong. "How are you feeling lately? Are you adjusting to life in Beijing?" Since she was already in the office, Wu Tong couldn't help but ask a few more questions. "It's great, I feel very fulfilled. The living conditions on the Kyoto University campus are very convenient, especially the Kyoto University cafeteria. We have tried several, but we haven't tried them all yet." Tao Ran scratched his head. When they first arrived, they devoted themselves to the experiment and conquered the reinforcement coating. They couldn't help but relax a little. Of course, this was based on not delaying their normal research work. It's just that they didn't immediately start the next research topic. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244, Infrastructure. Mr. Wu, we're currently conducting in-depth research on this special silicon molecule to see if we can develop further extensions. Another researcher blushed. It was Mr. Wu who discovered a special silicon molecule. Tao Ran's reinforcement coating also began with a special silicon oxide molecule, and Mr. Wu refined it to create the current super reinforced coating. They're still building on Mr. Wu's foundation and need his assistance. Their expertise is truly lacking, and they hope they won't hold Mr. Wu back. Very good. This is a topic worthy of further research. You can continue to delve deeper and be more creative. Wu Tong nodded with a smile. She had discovered this special substance and had made some minor discoveries, but she couldn't yet promote it domestically or internationally. Therefore, further research would be left to these team members to slowly uncover more gold mines. I'll look forward to you creating more achievements. Wu Tong cast an expectant look at the team members, then continued, "Next, I have a basic task that requires your assistance, Boss Wu. Please tell me, we promised to complete it." Everyone looked at Wu Tong in awe. Boss Wu finally had a place to use them, and they had to complete the task properly and demonstrate their value. Wu Tong laughed. "Don't be too serious. I just had an idea. I hope I didn't burden you. I need you to help me collect common infrastructure data on highways, superhighways, etc. in the world, as well as information on various adhesives and parameter data on some basic materials. As the saying goes, a good craftsman must first sharpen his tools. Wu Tong was determined to create a roadbed that was easy to build, low in cost, earthquake-resistant, disaster-resistant, and durable, all with excellent features. A basic understanding of this area was essential. Got it, Mr. Wu. We'll provide you with the information you need within 3 days, Tao Ran and his team promised in unison. They would gather the information Mr. Wu needed as quickly as possible, complete the task he assigned them, and also prepare to assist him in the experiment. Upon hearing Mr. Wu's request, they knew he was about to embark on a major undertaking. They exchanged glances, their hearts surging with excitement and anticipation. They were incredibly proud to be a part of such a major undertaking. Research tasks should be arranged appropriately. Your health should be prioritized. Unless there are special circumstances, try not to stay up too late. Wu Tong offered repeated instructions before leaving. They were all young people with a long future ahead of them. These were promising young people who could become pillars of society, and they couldn't afford to neglect themselves. Yes, Mr. Wu, we'll keep an eye on it. Soon, the information Wu Tong needed was in her hands. She was gradually adapting to her role as a team manager, letting go where necessary and delegating trivial matters. This gave her more time to focus on projects that needed her more. In reality, a better model would be for the team to identify a suitable direction, and for her to screen it. Ideally, it would be similar to the aluminum alloy material her teacher had developed, even with minor flaws, and she could then refine, extend, and optimize it. However, Wu Tong didn't insist on this. Starting from scratch, for her, identifying the required direction wouldn't be too much of a hassle. China's infrastructure has always been renowned, especially after 6 or 7 years, when it leapt to first place in the world with 140,000 kilometers of highway mileage, a figure that continues to rise. China has always spared no expense in infrastructure construction, solely to facilitate its people and connect the nation. However, current data shows that the total mileage of domestic highways is only approaching 70,000 kilometers, still halfway to the record-breaking figure. Wu Tong believed that quickly achieving a promising result, entering into field trials, and then rapidly promoting it would save the country some funds and create a miracle with even greater mileage and a wider reach, thus boosting development. According to data, expressways are designed to accommodate a wide range of vehicles at high speeds, so the road surface requirements are extremely stringent. Currently, expressways are typically constructed in multiple layers, typically divided into 4 layers. This is to prevent inclement rain and snow, when water seeps from the surface and dissipates the underlying soil. Over time, potholes and subsidence can form, leading to road collapse and major disasters. The bottom layer is the soil base, a layer of natural soil repeatedly compacted by rollers. Above that is a crushed stone layer composed of various crushed stones, which enhances the roadbed's bearing capacity. Above that is a coarser asphalt layer, composed of a mixture of granules that distributes surface pressure. The top layer, composed of a mixture of finer asphalt particles, is the layer that vehicles come into contact with, primarily providing a smooth surface. After all, potholes and dents increase driving risks at high speeds. This is the basic construction process for surface expressways. Furthermore, due to insufficient demand and the unique topography, expressways now include elevated sections, primarily constructed of steel beams, rebar, and concrete. Typically, it's constructed in sections and then assembled, with small joints between each section. This design prevents cracking caused by expansion and contraction of the road surface. Wu Tong circled the key points of the asphalt and steel beam reinforced concrete complex, gazing at them for a long time. If traditional steel could withstand the excessive loads of highways, what about Mach 4 special steel? Could it be further utilized? Modern construction is no longer based on the traditional brick and stone model. Reinforced concrete is now the primary raw material. Formwork is layered, rebar is laid, and concrete is poured to form a monolithic framework. Bricks are only used for partitions. China's infrastructure construction is incredibly fast, with modular, integrated buildings constructed like building blocks. A 57-story skyscraper was erected in 19 days, earning him the title of infrastructure maniac. Could this rapid model be applied to highways? Could it alleviate the initial challenges of highway construction, which typically took at least 2 months to build 1 kilometer? Wu Tong's gaze deepened. His accumulated knowledge of engineering and material science whirled in his mind, gradually coalescing into a devastating storm, stirring up tiny sparks that formed lines, which in turn formed patches. The whirlwind spread like wildfire. With pen and paper in hand, Wu Tong naturally prepared to begin his deductions. Chapter 245, Kinky. Wu Tong's mind raced with ideas, and a preliminary structural direction emerged. Could he weave special steel nanowires into a lattice framework, then apply a targeted infill method? The interplay of the framework and infill would amplify the cohesion, allowing for an integrated construction process and potentially speeding up construction? Yes, it could be done. The ancients had invented a method of mixing yellow mud with shredded straw, making earth bricks stronger and more durable. The same considerations could be applied to reinforced highway subgrades. Having identified this core structural concept, Wu Tong began to translate it into a detailed mathematical problem, constructing a meticulous mathematical model. He established the upper limits of desired parameters, and from there, he could work backwards to determine the optimal weave density for the lattice framework and the required specifications for the special steel nanowires. Using the optimal amount of material to achieve the best result had always been Wu Tong's stated goal. Waste should not occur, and from the outset, it should be eliminated. The traditional segmented construction model for viaducts uses steel beams and rebar as the skeleton, concrete as the filling, and asphalt as the paving. However, this approach is costly. The Jinggan Expressway, due to its topographical characteristics, reached a significant cost of 200 million yuan per kilometer. In the Materials Research Office, Tao Ran reported the parameters of various basic materials to Wu Tong, quietly summarizing the data they had collected. Concrete is one of the most important civil engineering materials in modern times. It's an artificial stone material made from cementitious materials, granular aggregate, water, and, if necessary, admixtures and additives, mixed in specific proportions, then uniformly mixed, compacted into a dense shape, and cured to harden. The term concrete generally refers to cement as the binder, sand and stone as aggregate, mixed with water in specific proportions, and then mixed together. It's also called ordinary concrete and is widely used in civil engineering. Wu Tong glanced down at the summary of the materials in his hand, pondering whether it's ordinary concrete in the broad sense, based on the 6 major types of cement specified in GB 175-2007, Portland cement, ordinary Portland cement, slag Portland cement, pozzolanic Portland cement, fly ash Portland cement, and composite Portland cement, or specialty cements with special properties or uses, such as G-grade oil well cement, rapid hardening Portland cement, road Portland cement, aluminate cement, self-aluminate cement, and so on. They're essentially all silicate products, silicates. Wu Tong's gaze focused again. These materials, often characterized by high melting points and stable chemical properties, are widely used in various industries and scientific research. Wu Tong was familiar with the basic structures of various materials, and she could easily master them. As she gradually analyzed the structure and focused on silicates, she quickly sketched out the basic structure of silicates on a piece of paper. A silicon-oxygen tetrahedron, a silicon atom occupies the center, and 4 oxygen atoms occupy the corners. These tetrahedrons, depending on their composition, formed various silicates. This could also be classified as another form of silicon oxide. This shift brought her back to her area of expertise, a field where Wu Tong had extensive research experience and was naturally more adept at deducing. Ordinary cement structures, even existing specialty cements, naturally could not meet Wu Tong's current requirements. If no suitable alternative existed, she would continue to dig deeper until she found one. Low cost, high strength, and high performance. In the field of materials research, Wu Tong always pursued superior results, even to the point of being meticulous. Seeing Wu Tong writing rapidly, seemingly inspired by something, Tao Ran almost held his breath. He gently placed the documents in his hands on the corner of Wu Tong's desk, then quietly exited the office. Wu's state of mind demanded no interruption. This was a key principle emphasized during confidentiality training and the confidentiality agreement they had signed upon joining Wu Tong's team. He screened and deduced countless directions, writing countless pages of draft paper. He thoroughly researched adhesive materials, consulting both domestic and international literature on the subject. Combined with his extensive knowledge of silicon oxide and specialized silicides, his thinking sparked new insights daily. Step by step, Wu Tong steadily advanced towards the summit of success. By the end of June, the final deductions were revealed, complete with a chemical formula for sodium chloride silicate, NaCl. Silicate is a chemical term, referring to compounds formed by the combination of silicon, oxygen, and other chemical elements, primarily aluminum, iron, calcium, magnesium, potassium, and sodium. After thorough analysis and selection, Wu Tong's focus on sodium chloride was a natural choice. Other combinations aren't without research value, but based on the principle of cost control and minimization, sodium chloride is undoubtedly an extremely suitable option. Besides oxygen, which accounts for the largest proportion of seawater, chlorine is next. Sodium, which has the highest metal content, ranks first. Therefore, the first processing unit in the desalination plant is the sodium chloride separation and extraction process. Although it has only been operating at full capacity for about a month, the desalination plant has already accumulated a considerable reserve of sodium chloride. At the current separation rate, the total annual output is estimated to be over 100 million tons, a figure that is expected to increase exponentially with the addition of additional desalination plants and production lines. Logically, sodium chloride is the main component of common table salt, so wouldn't it be quite useful to convert it directly into edible salt? However, this is not the case. While salt is a necessity, the daily intake per person is not high. Even if it is often wasted, China's annual salt consumption is only about 7 million tons. Domestically, conventional salt production alone produces 40 million tons. Compared to this production volume, measured in billions, this represents only a fraction of the total, with only a fraction being used. Especially with the widespread adoption of reforms to the mining industry, the bulk of sodium chloride ore smelting has been replaced. The accumulation of large sodium chloride reserves could cause environmental pollution if not handled with caution, which is not their primary objective. Utilizing this vast amount of sodium chloride is becoming a complex and daunting resource problem. This, in turn, reflects a sense of resource scarcity, a lack of surplus, and a lack of burden on China. Chapter 246 Its Beauty. Now, they've achieved the best of both worlds. Having successfully developed a new road filler, they've also found a highly effective use for sodium chloride, a problem that was quickly becoming a burden. Wu Tong ultimately finalized a new road construction plan, employing a specially woven, fixed grid of specialized steel nanowires, filled with a special road filler, silicic acid sodium chloride. A reinforcing coating is then applied on top, creating a seamless connection between the three. The highway subgrade, built on this foundation, can not only be constructed in an integrated manner, but construction time is expected to be reduced by 4 to 5 times. Furthermore, the overall strength of the subgrade is 4 to 5 times greater than that of traditional reinforced concrete. Naturally, the load-bearing capacity will increase several times over that of traditional highways. Crucially, the construction cost can be reduced to 1/5 of the original cost. Even with specialized design and power supply infrastructure, the total cost is less than half, making it highly commercializable. Wu Tong's design also included a specially processed, fused product, also known as sodium silicate, which possesses unique properties not found in ordinary cement concrete. It is repairable under ultra-high temperatures. Listed one after another, these advantages are enough to make this exceptional road fill material stand out among ordinary concrete and asphalt, becoming an emerging choice for road construction. The material model has been finalized, the preparation process has been preliminarily established, and all that's left is for the final product to be tested and tested. Teacher, we've completed the design for a recycling project extending the materials course, and we can now proceed to the lab. Are you available to supervise the experiment? Wu Tong first called Cheng Huanan. The recycling project naturally referred to this Hongyan Group series of projects. In Wu Tong's mind, this was a supplement to her recycling program, not a separate topic. Of course, I'll be in the lab right away. Cheng Huanan was naturally intrigued by Wu Tong's new material validation and immediately agreed. He had just completed a validation project for a new aluminum alloy, which has a wide range of applications, particularly in aerospace, including rivets, aircraft propellers, high-strength parts, various structural components, and high-load parts. He had just submitted this super aluminum alloy 2 days ago, and these past 2 days he's been putting the finishing touches on the project, repeatedly reviewing and revisiting the research process and materials as a way to further deepen his understanding. Upon hearing that Wu Tong had made new progress, he was overjoyed. Cheng Su is here. Cheng Su and I will contact Tao Ran and the others to arrange laboratory preparations. With personnel in place and materials ready, the experiment began. Wu Tong's discretionary R&D funding had already been allocated, so funding for the experiment was the least of her worries. For such independent experiments, Wu Tong didn't need to report anything in advance. Afterwards, when she felt like it or had the time, she could provide a brief experimental description to provide a brief understanding of the funding. There were no hard and fast requirements. Wu Tong's deductive preparation process was perfected. And soon the experimental results, sodium silicate nanocrystals and special steel nanowires produced through a specialized process, appeared before everyone, undoubtedly filing in the air with joy. Test, Wu Tong nodded gently, observing the materials that met her expectations. They were the product of her deductions. Precise tests were conducted one after another on the testing equipment, with the data compared horizontally and vertically, and tabulated in tables, while Ruan Changsu took notes. Each report was submitted to Wu Tong. Compared to concrete, its strength is 50% higher. It has all the advantages of asphalt concrete, but with an added bonus. Combined with MIC4 microfiber nanowires woven into a skeletal grid, its strength is increased by 4.7 times. As expected, Wu Tong's first move revealed its effectiveness. While the improvement from each individual material might seem modest, surpassing typical specialty cement, when all the components are combined, the performance and strength are dramatically improved. With a reinforcement coating, the strength can be increased by over 5%. Based on the shock load data, it can withstand earthquakes up to magnitude 10, as well as flooding. Such data, if released, would astound the world. Not bad. Meeting expectations, Wu Tong was delighted when all the data came in. She could contribute to the agricultural assistance project. Teacher, let's submit this report to higher-ups for large-scale trials before promoting it. After all, their data was laboratory data, and it still had certain limitations. Before moving forward with alternative approaches, Wu Tong suggested conducting more precise, larger-scale experiments. After all, this is a matter of vital importance to people's livelihoods and cannot be taken lightly. In the research department, Chu Hengyan was genuinely delighted upon seeing the research report submitted by Wu Tong. Thank you, Mr. Wu, for your contribution to the nation's well-being. I'll arrange for the data transfer right away. He first expressed his gratitude and excitement to Wu Tong on a secure phone, then immediately contacted security to escort the data to the special equipment factory. Later, without hesitation, he took the data to his superiors for a work report. Excellent, excellent, excellent. We are so lucky to have such researchers, the superiors praised the report profusely. They knew all too well the benefits of building expressways connecting the entire country. However, China's vast territory and diverse terrain made infrastructure construction incredibly challenging. Despite all odds, they forging ahead with the construction of these nationwide expressways. From gritting their teeth, overcoming numerous difficulties, and tightening their belts to build their first expressway, they have now built nearly 70,000 kilometers of expressways, a cost that is almost immeasurable. Every kilometer was paved with untold gold and silver, the product of countless engineers and workers who dedicated themselves to overcoming countless obstacles. Or people who don't understand may ask why we still need to build highways if it's so difficult and costly. Even some public intellectuals who talk nonsense are still saying that since we have this money, why not distribute it to the people to help alleviate poverty and make them equally prosperous? However, the country is gritting its teeth and building highways at all costs, not for show, but for deep and sincere strategic significance. Highways can shorten driving time between cities and villages, improve transportation efficiency, promote logistics and the interconnection between urban and rural areas and large cities. They can improve traffic conditions, speed up the flow of materials, and promote regional economic development. They can significantly reduce logistics costs and improve corporate competitiveness. They can provide convenient travel, facilitate people's travel, entertainment and tourism, enhance the city's image, and bring about the development of emerging industries, increasing the city's comprehensive competitiveness. Chapter 247 Treasure. Building expressways not only boosts local economic development, improves quality of life, and enhances driving safety, but also holds significance for improving and advancing national economic and social development. Perhaps most importantly, in wartime, they enable the fastest possible deployment of troops. Expressway construction is essential. While the nation is not unwilling to sacrifice the cost, its strategic significance necessitates their advancement. Now, their proud Chinese sun has brought them new hope. Year-on-year strength is over 5 times greater than traditional pavement, construction speed increases by 4 to 5 times, and the cost is reduced by 1/5. These figures may seem simple, but when put into practice, they represent trillions of dollars in cost savings. They will also achieve nationwide connectivity, shorten construction time by 4 to 5 times, reduce infrastructure construction complexity, and enhance road resilience, naturally reducing the burden of road maintenance, another significant expense. Expressway tolls may seem to generate billions of dollars daily, but after deducting costs and maintenance expenses, they can even be negative revenue for extended periods. Most importantly, they can shorten the timeframe several-fold, realizing the grand goal of nationwide connectivity. She can better assist agricultural development, drive rural development, truly help farmers and enrich them, and firmly grasp the fundamental foundation of the nation. She is our true treasure, the old man exclaimed in deep gratitude and admiration. She can develop high-precision strategic projects, while also addressing the nation's challenges and helping to solve them. Her horizontal mathematical achievements have rocked the world, making her one of the world's top scholars, a rare breed. Truly, as he had said before, having such a child is a blessing for the nation. And this child, who will only turn 18 at the end of this month, has a bright future, and is expected to achieve even more brilliant achievements that will contribute to national development. Wu Tong's safety, protect her at all costs. Failure to safeguard such a treasure would be a blow to the nation's scientific research advancement, a setback of 10 to 20 years. How is the construction of the Peking University Research Institute going? Wu Tong treated the country with the ability of a patriot, and they must treat her with the friendship of a patriot, living up to her heart of devotion to the country. The main building has been completed, and we are currently installing the interior. Because this involves a sophisticated laboratory, we're moving as fast as we can. Chu Hengyan personally oversaw the project's progress for Wu Tong's Peking University laboratory. Therefore, he was able to speak freely about its progress. Keep an eye on its progress and ensure it's ready for our top experts as soon as possible. We can't allow such talented individuals to remain without even a dedicated laboratory or a dedicated team. Yes, rest assured, I'll continue to monitor the project's progress, Chu Hengyan assured him. This was his responsibility. As the person who handled every one of Wu Tong's confidential discoveries, he knew firsthand how incredibly valuable Wu Tong was. Throughout history, there have been countless buildings comparable to Wu Tong's. Wu Tong's significance to the nation was as crucial as a nation's rise. Immediately follow Mr. Wu's instructions and conduct secret field resistance tests. If they pass, immediately implement replacement and rollout, initiate a nationwide paving program, and contact the chief road construction engineer to carefully design routes and special sections. The elder's words were solemn, yet his voice spoke volumes about the grandiose implementation plan. Wu Tong's scientific advancements and these findings also open up new possibilities for their expressways. They can even go beyond simply building expressways. Some sections could even be double-decked, like elevated bridges, accommodating both cars above and high-speed rail below. All of this requires a thorough and detailed implementation plan, with a comprehensive perspective. Building simply for its own sake, then later destroying and rebuilding to meet demand, is not only time-consuming and labor-intensive, but also a massive waste of resources. This is absolutely unacceptable. Yes, Hengyan will immediately make arrangements and develop a plan for your review. We'll do everything we can to ensure that the equipment in Mr. Wu's laboratory is as extensive and advanced as possible. Providing Wu Tong with these advanced and precise instruments will assist him in conducting more precise experiments and will also support the significant achievements that will benefit a country's development. Yes, we're already arranging procurement and transportation. Some laboratory instruments have already arrived and will be installed in the completed laboratory as soon as possible. The order of arrival of the instruments will be determined based on the construction of the laboratory, the difficulty of building different laboratories for different purposes, and the difficulty of procuring the instruments. Hengyan, you have a heavy burden on your shoulders. You'll have to work hard. The old man gently patted Chu Hengyan on the shoulder, expressing his high hopes. It's not hard, Chu Hengyan, you must give it your all. With actions from top to bottom, the superhighway project kicked off, radiating from top to bottom. The team, having received the secret test mission, immediately began high-intensity resistance testing. The paving material production line at a specially prepared factory was expedited, running at full capacity to produce a sufficient amount of supporting two-way material for delivery to the experimental team. The experimental team paved the road according to the implementation standards. The rapid paving speed amazed the entire experimental team. They were paving and constructing according to highway standards, and the construction location was a special location on the planned highway route that would not waste any space. In the past, paving 1 kilometer every 2 or 3 months was a normal speed. But now, in just 10 days, they paved 1 kilometer. This also included the time they spent getting familiar with and mastering road paving in this way, and the fact that they did not pave the road flatly, but instead built a tunnel-like construction project. Fully loaded heavy trucks repeatedly ran over it, cars passed in dense rows, high-load operation tests, even artificial rock falls, simulated earthquakes, and flood disaster tests. After the incredible and amazing test data was compiled, the person in charge of the secret experiment was almost overjoyed and handed the data to the security department's escort team with trembling hands. In parallel with the test team, everyone from the chief engineer for road implementation planning to reliable road construction professionals received confidentiality orders and gathered at a facility arranged by the research department, where they shared accommodations and meals. They conducted thorough discussions on construction planning based on new road construction materials and technologies. A dedicated confidential exploration team also immediately began collecting geomorphic data based on previously available national survey data, for areas where there were any ambiguities or where new route planning required more precise exploration data. Chapter 248 Promotion. Once the results of the robust physical tests were gathered in Beijing, a flurry of discussions and meetings ensued. Further arrangements soon began to churn, with directives issued one after another from the research department. The special preparation factory received a request from higher-ups to establish 2 additional production lines for supporting materials, operating at full capacity to produce McForn and Nauer mesh skeletons and GN materials. GN stands for the abbreviation for sodium chloride silicon chloride. To prevent name leaks, many materials with the same original name have alternate names. The road planning team was conducting road planning discussions at an accelerated pace. Meanwhile, material preparation plans for planned highways, either not yet under construction or about to begin, were temporarily halted. Wu Tong was aware of the arrangements and changes at the top, but the results of completed projects were handled by the state, and implementation was left to the professionals involved. This wasn't her primary concern, as she had always maintained a clear sense of her own role. Wu Tong's most direct experience with the implementation of these plans came from Wu Jingzhong's admiration at the work conference. Back in time, after Wu Tong handed over her research and development results, she allocated funds for the core team to arrange their own celebrations, instructing them to be safe and avoid excessive drinking. With her teacher and senior colleagues leading the team, Wu Tong also allowed herself a small break for the celebration. If she joined the group celebration, the safety department would have to deal with too much, so Wu Tong decided not to join in the fun. With her around, the others couldn't relax. The teacher was merely there to keep an eye on things, leaving after dinner and not joining in the lively after-party with the young team members. She didn't actually get home early, it was already dark. Completing the experiments, compiling and summarizing the data, determining material parameters, and arranging the submission process all took time. Then, after seeing off the team members who had gone out to celebrate, it was naturally late again. When Wu Tong arrived home, she expected her parents to be home by then. However, to her surprise, her father, Wu Jingzhong, who always arrived home on time, was still not home. "Mom, where's Dad? Did something keep him up today?" Wu Tong washed her hands and wandered into the kitchen, asking Teacher Jin, who was making her fish soup. Why was Teacher Jin the only one home today? Fresh silver carp had been delivered today, marinated by Jin Yu's arrival, and hot water had been prepared. Upon hearing Wu Tong enter, Teacher Jin immediately turned on the stove, garnished the fish with chopped garlic and scallions, and in just a few minutes, a bowl of piping hot boiled fish soup was ready. Teacher Jin, a true heirloom of Jin Yongqing's legacy, mastered this recipe with unparalleled skill. "Your dad won't be home for a while. He's got some work to do lately, promoting a project to help farmers." Jin Yu stirred the boiling soup in the pot and tilted her head to ask. Her husband looked tired, so she didn't ask any more questions. When your dad gets home later, I can ask him about it. What's going on? Her husband would tell them what he could and what he couldn't, and they wouldn't ask any more questions. Because of Tong's special circumstances, she and her husband had learned basic confidentiality protocols after arriving in Beijing. Don't look at what you shouldn't look at, and don't ask what you shouldn't ask. They understood the basics. Teacher Jin's timing was perfect. Fresh fish soup and pancakes were fresh from the pan when Wu Jingzhong walked in with a slightly heavy step. As soon as I walked in, I could smell the delicious aroma of fish soup. I'm in for a treat today, my beloved Au. You've worked so hard. Wu Jingzhong put his bag down in the hallway and smiled as he headed to the dining room. He was even happier to see Wu Tong there, and his fatigue seemed to fade away. Hey, Tong, are you done? You're home early today. Lately, Wu Tong had been coming home at dawn. Yes, I finished a little research project. Wu Tong blinked. She felt like she should stay in the office a little longer before returning. Why did she feel like a bright light bulb between her parents? It seemed that when she was away, her parents had a very rich world just for them. That was good. Have you been busy with work lately? Wu Tong smiled, brushing off a fleeting sigh. Her parents had a rhythmic, happy life, and she didn't need them to revolve around her. She felt a little ashamed, though, that her family often followed her around. For example, the two families' relocation to Beijing might seem like a step up for many, envying their families for the privileged living conditions in the capital. But it's undeniable that moving to Beijing meant leaving behind familiar surroundings and connections, starting anew, adapting to the environment, life, and business. Her family's silent love for her was evident in every little detail, and Wu Tong was deeply concerned that they could continue to be happy as always. The government recently introduced an organic fertilizer that's been very effective. We're helping farmers, visiting the countryside to promote it and provide guidance, since things widely promoted by the government weren't confidential. Wu Jingzhong answered every question. A flourishing crop depends entirely on fertilizer. Our researchers are truly remarkable, having developed such a remarkable organic fertilizer. Our field research shows that within just a few days, crops grown with this organic fertilizer, compared to those without fertilizer, have shown stronger root systems and richer green leaves. The contrast between the two plots is stark, and the difference is obvious at a glance. Farmers who were hesitant are now rushing to apply for organic fertilizer after seeing the difference firsthand. Wu Jingzhong beamed with excitement when discussing his recent work. Seeing such a transformative change, even those who walk dozens of kilometers a day, plus the commuting time into the city, are exhausted, yet they are delighted. I keep up with my morning exercises, and I'm in good shape. Wu Jingzhong smiled, raising his hand and flexing his muscles, demonstrating his strength and ability to withstand the demands of his current mission. He assured his wife and daughter that there was no need to worry about him. Wu Tong's eyebrows twitched slightly. Another byproduct of the regeneration project, organic fertilizer, had already been piloted in the rural areas surrounding Shanjing. This was good news, a tangible realization that her work was truly benefiting the nation and its people. Wu Tong ate her fish soup with care, smiling as she listened to her father's heartfelt narration. Wu Jingzhong, who had spent over 20 years in a fundamental agricultural field, truly desired the positive development of national agriculture. Progress made him happy. Chapter 249 Multidirectional. I'm hoping for a good autumn this year, bringing a bountiful harvest to the farmers. I'll see the benefits of this organic fertilizer and see it promoted nationwide. Wu Jingzhong sighed. He's a materialist, but that doesn't stop him from hoping for the best, right? That way, we'll be able to eat safe food and vegetables in the future. We won't have to worry about the so-called organic vegetables in the supermarket now, whether they're real or fake, a gimmick, or something else. They're incredibly expensive, and regular vegetables and poultry are tainted with hormones and chemicals. Even basic food is a concern, although they rarely need to buy groceries anymore. With daily delivery, the market still faces a similar situation. Yes, we already have safe water, don't we? As a developer of ultrafiltration membranes, Wu Tong's region was the first to initiate water supply reforms. The water plant has switched from its original drinking water purification process to one using ultrafiltration membranes, adding beneficial minerals before distributing them to thousands of households. At the same time, considering that the water mains couldn't be replaced immediately, Two small water purification devices equipped with ultrafiltration membranes were installed in the homes above and below. These devices intelligently add beneficial elements in both directions, ensuring truly safe water. Simultaneously, the above actions were rapidly implemented. National forces were mobilized, and the purification and filtration vehicles were successfully modified. The canal and river treatment project began with small-scale and large-scale improvements. As the wastewater leaves the purification and filtration vehicles, the ultrafiltration membranes separate out pure water molecules, mixed with a fixed amount of beneficial minerals, and then return. The filtered contaminated wastewater is then transferred to the storage tank of the water purification vehicle. Once full, the water purification vehicle concludes its workday and returns to the deep recovery center, where it is sent to the sewage tank for separation, extraction, filtration, and decomposition, ensuring that the source of pollution never again pollutes the environment. Many citizens walking outside these days have a new experience. The water in rivers and lakes is clearer and less stinky, and aquatic life, like fish, frogs, and snails, seems more active and more numerous. Better water resources naturally improve the ecology, which in turn improves the environment. People feel more positive and optimistic, their lives more hopeful, and social morale naturally more uplifting. 1 begets 2, 2 begets 3, and 3 begets all things. All changes are quietly taking shape, sprouting and improving. This is a sign of national prosperity and the scenario we all aspire to. Only when people live a happy and stable life can there be social harmony. Social harmony can reduce unnecessary unrest and harm, and lay the foundation for harmonious development. Since ancient times, prosperous times have always begun with a stable life. When people live and work in peace and contentment, social order is established, and people's sense of happiness is enhanced. Then a strong national strength is formed, and only then can a glorious era be forged. A strong country is also the source of its people's confidence and pride, and is their strongest support. Only with the protection of the country can ordinary people enjoy a prosperous era. It is better to be a dog in peace than a person in chaos. The prosperity and peace that countless predecessors sacrificed their lives to achieve should be cherished. Wu Tong felt that it would be a wonderful thing to contribute a little to this prosperity and peace in her lifetime. Wu Tong thought that after completing her current project, she might be able to explore some research projects of her own, to see if she could solve a problem. Wu Tong made another note in her notebook. Besides targeted research, her research direction was largely inspired by her life's insights. Of course, before deciding on a new project, Wu Tong still planned to complete the few key areas she had on hand. She couldn't bite off more than she could chew. There were so many things she wanted to research, but she was only one person, one brain, not 1,000 heads and 6 arms. She had to take it one step at a time. The roadbed material project was a temporary extension of her project, a supplement to the regeneration project and the agricultural assistance program that followed. Of course, this was how Wu Tong saw it. From top to bottom, no one would underestimate Wu Tong's research achievements as mere appendages to other projects. For the constructors and engineers working in the road construction sector, this was a transformation akin to magic. Wu Tong's new research on specialized silicides resonated with the research team, not that Wu Xin had exhausted all of them, but rather that they lacked the vision to discover them. Silicides still held great promise. Similarly, could nitrides offer new research directions and discoveries they hadn't yet uncovered? Or even oxides? They should be more imaginative. Mr. Wu set a great example for them. Researchers must not stray from scientific evidence, nor be constrained by limited thinking. They must be more imaginative beyond the mechanisms currently discovered. China is home to many talented individuals, and Wu Tong never considered herself the only one. Her achievements to date were the result of standing on the shoulders of those who came before her, allowing her to see further and higher. Just then, in the project team summary, Wu Tong saw new research and development results. After developing the water purification vehicle, the engineering research and development team conducted groundbreaking multifaceted development, adapting the principles of the water purification vehicle. They then mastered the structure of the salt hauler, ultimately completing it. The desalination vehicle addresses the widespread saline alkali land in China, as well as soil compaction and acidification caused by the long-term, improper, and excessive use of chemical fertilizers. The desalination vehicle effectively and specifically targets the arable land layer, using the temporarily strong reactive power of honeycomb oxygen to absorb excess elements from the soil. The treated soil is then evenly mixed with an appropriate proportion of organic fertilizer in a blender and then reapplied to the fields, recreating large tracts of prime arable land. This is another significant benefit to Sinochem agriculture and also significantly increases domestic arable land. According to statistics, China has approximately 100 million hectares of saline alkali land, with 1 hectare equal to 15 mu of land. However, China's arable land area is only approximately 2 billion mu. If all of this saline alkali land could be desalinated, the country's arable land area would double. This significant increase would revolutionize the revitalization of Chinese agriculture. Previously, even if the vast saline alkali land in northwest China were treated, there wouldn't have been enough water for cultivation. Local drinking water was a struggle, let alone increasing arable land. However, things are different now. Technological innovation has brought new vitality to development. With the launch of seawater desalination projects, China's water resources are now fully guaranteed. With the construction of the North-to-North Freshwater Diversion Project, Northwest China will have a steady supply of water, ensuring both drinking water and irrigation for local residents. Chapter 250 Push again. The water problem has been solved, and the vast, sparsely populated land there is ideally suited for agricultural production. Given time and development, it has a strong potential to become another national granary. This is a major project of immense strategic value. Where large-scale mechanized farming is feasible, the government never worries about a shortage of contracted farmers. If this proves unsuccessful, the agricultural authorities can simply establish large-scale farms, recruit workers, and nationalize the farming operations. With coordinated planning, the grain supply remains firmly in state hands, better protecting the interests of the grassroots and preventing speculation by grain merchants that could affect ordinary people's lives. Furthermore, with a new source of funding, the agricultural authorities can better support rural areas, and farmers, carrying out development operations and poverty alleviation support. This virtuous cycle is exactly what they've been hoping for. National technological advancements are opening up new possibilities, and promising ones at that. Once word of this project gets out, not only the agricultural authorities at the top, but even the agricultural departments and bureaus below are likely eager to take action. Which department wouldn't want to see their own available funds swell their pockets? Each piece of good news is always a welcome relief, especially for Wu Tong, the original driving force behind the development of the new technology. It fueled her motivation. Her findings could positively impact and transform China, a testament to her dedicated research and dedication. A good mood felt like a lucky start. A flicker of inspiration struck Wu Tong, sparking a small step forward in her long-studied NS equations. She immediately took up her pen and began to deduce, guided by this inspiration. While this little bit of inspiration wouldn't completely solve the millennium-old problem, it would at least allow her to take another step forward on her path to higher standards. That was already a good thing. Just as food should be eaten one bite at a time, research should proceed step by step, one step at a time, with solid ground to build upon. Reaching the summit and completely solving the problem was simply a matter of time. It's common sense to devote 2 to 3 years, or even longer, to a difficult problem like this. Some mathematicians tirelessly pursue a single problem throughout their lives. For example, Andrew Wiles, a mathematician she knew well, had been fascinated by Fermat's last theorem since he was 10 years old, but he wasn't able to fully solve it until he was 45. From the age of 10, Mr. Wiles toiled towards the grand goal of proving Fermat's last theorem for a full 35 years. How many 35 years can a person have in their lifetime? This kind of perseverance and persistence is what she needs to learn. Her path has been relatively smooth, and she hasn't yet encountered a truly difficult and utterly hopeless situation. However, that doesn't mean she won't encounter such moments in the future. Therefore, she must plan ahead. When such times arise, she must remain calm, persevere in her studies, and overcome obstacles. This is the approach she should adopt. With the Enlightenment Stone tablet at her side, and with such support, Wu Tong's efforts will bear fruit. Such a smooth journey will prevent her from becoming arrogant and becoming someone she hates because of her unique characteristics. Wu Tong constantly reminded herself to be humble. Her memories of the future also gave her mature rationality and a warning, allowing her to maintain her current humility. Inspired by a passage, Wu Tong had just paused to flex her wrist when there was a knock on the office door. "Come in." As the door swung open, Wu Tong saw it was Ruan Chengsu. She smiled and stood up. "Brother Su, you're back? Is everything settled?" Ruan Chengsu had recently successfully defended his graduation thesis, completing his studies and receiving his diploma. He then worked with her on the experiment, and after it was finished, he made time to go home to take care of some chores and visit his family. "Why didn't you stay home longer? Everything was settled." "I had nothing to do at home anyway, so I came back. I'm used to being in the lab, and suddenly coming home to do nothing is a bit strange." Ruan Chengsu wanted to hold his forehead in his hands. Was he born to be a hard worker? Why was he even uncomfortable lying down at home? Thinking of the group of researchers in Wu Tong's lab chasing him like wolves and tigers, he felt his position as the first researcher to join Wu Tong's team was in jeopardy. After all, those researchers were all full-time researchers with years of experience, not just a fresh graduate like him. He could rely on his previous achievements and Wu Tong's position as a junior fellow to secure his position temporarily, but it wouldn't last forever. He still needed to have a sense of crisis. Those who don't plan for the future will inevitably face immediate worries. He wasn't trying to create more anxiety, but maintaining a moderate level of pressure would allow for greater room for improvement and truly build a strong resume. Researchers who enter the four major pits of biochemical materials may love the field, but they almost all aim to achieve major breakthroughs and a brilliant future. Their goals might be cheesy, but humans are real creatures, not imaginary saints, and they can't achieve the selflessness of a saint. He couldn't stay idle at home, so he received a message and hurried back. "Wu Tong, do you remember the mechanical engineering talent from Huaking I told you about before, the one about strong oxygen product extraction?" "Right." Wu Tong's memory was never in doubt, and he immediately pulled out the fragments of that day from his memory bank. "I remember junior brother saying he already had a job. Zhang Jin's advisor had already reached an understanding with him and wanted to keep him in the lab. He couldn't respond to a recruitment offer without his advisor's full commitment." Ruan Chengsu sighed, unsure whether to be happy about the potential addition of a new talent to the team or to sigh for Zhang Jin, his friend. His advisor has found a more suitable candidate, making him dispensable. This puts him in a rather awkward position. It's already July or August, the optimal window for graduate recruitment has passed, and he still hasn't secured a regular position. He's now faced with the prospect of finding a suitable career path, and his family isn't well off. Isn't that a real dilemma? He couldn't fault his advisor, but he had been left stranded, with no place to go. His future was in jeopardy. If he made another mistake, he could end up wasting half his life. Desperate, Zhang Jin immediately thought of Ruan Chengsu's offer and contacted him again, hoping for an interview. As they were all graduates, although he had no job hunting experience, he did understand the difficulties faced by some graduates, so he talked about this matter with Wu Tong for the second time. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.